What's up? This is EJ Stewart.
What if I drop 40 days, 40 nights?
One, you can't do it.
All you are your words. If there's anything you learned about me, I'm gonna keep it 100 with you.
Every morning, every night, for 40 days.
Going to be a long 40 days this year.
My skill shot will hold for your city for 40 days, 40 nights.
Rest in peace to all my ops.
For 40 days. If I can do that, then everything will be okay.
You're the guy who can't finish a sandwich. You think you can go 40 days? This isn't normal!
Oh, you're wrong, brother. I'm gonna go the distance.
Let's go!
It's Henderson. He is tackled in bounds. 3, 2, 1. The Seahawks. They're bringing it home again for the second time in less than 12 years. The Seahawks win Super Bowl 60.
Let's go. What's up? This is EJ Stewart. As I adjust my camera. My camera's looking kind of crazy here. You're watching 40 Days, 40 Nights. We have a new Super Bowl winner, Super Bowl champion. The Seattle Seahawks have done it. So we'll talk plenty about this game, man. It was not the most fun game, I would say, but I did think that it was a game that I think kind of went how I wanted it to go, or kind of how I expected it to go. Again, this is your boy EJ Stewart. This is 40 Days, 40 Nights. My camera also not even. Let me adjust this joint. There you go. So you guys can see me crystal clear in HD, baby. We start this Monday morning after the Super Bowl. We'll talk about the Seahawks winning Super Bowl 60 over the England Patriots, a game like I started the show saying that was not that exciting, but did kind of go kind of the way I expected it in terms of the script of the game and how things were going to go. I thought that the Patriots would have trouble moving the ball. They did have trouble moving the ball. I thought that Drake May had not performed well, and if he did not perform well in this game, that they would lose. That is exactly what happened. And I think the only thing that maybe surprised me a little bit was that the Seahawks passing game never really got going. I think that's a credit to the game planning and the defense from the Patriots. Christian Gonzalez was phenomenal. I thought their blitz packages definitely got home. But otherwise, the game kind of went exactly as I thought. I told you guys it'd be a 2-score game. I told you guys that maybe early in the game it would look like this is a close game because some nerves would kind of keep the Patriots in it. And I think that's what happened. So we'll break it all down. We'll hear from Sam Darnold. We'll hear from Super Bowl MVP Kenneth Walker. And also the loser of this game, Drake May, and some details about the struggles he had in this game and also what he had been dealing with leading up to the game, because we learned that the shoulder injury that was not designated as anything that was put onto the injury report going into the game, so people thought maybe he was just completely fine and everything was good. Turns out he was dealing with some pain coming into the game. So we'll talk about May's situation. We'll talk about what this means for Sam Darnold. We'll also have a little sneak preview in terms of what this means for next season, because now you already got the odds ready for next year in terms of who the presumptive Super Bowl favorites are for next season. So we'll talk about that as well. We will also talk about the halftime performance from Bad Bunny, which has been obviously a major kind of cultural touch point for a lot of folks for many different reasons. I thought the performance was phenomenal. I thought it was a ton of fun. And I just really appreciated kind of what Benito brought to the stage and the message that he brought in and just the vibrant energy. This whole conversation about, oh, this is going to be about how much we hate America and how much America sucks and how bad things are. It was nothing like that. To me, this was about people having fun. This was about bringing culture. This was about bringing, again, kind of a happy message and a hopeful message for a lot of folks. And beyond even just messaging, it just was a damn good performance. I don't know any Spanish. I'm not someone who speaks Spanish, fluently at all. But I was able to enjoy the music, enjoy the dancing, enjoy the vibes, man. So we'll talk about Bad Bunny later in the show as well. We'll also get some other stuff happening outside of the Super Bowl. So some unfortunate news regarding what went on with James Pearce, the rookie star for the Atlanta Falcons. He is now facing felony charges due to a domestic dispute that apparently went down with him and his ex-girlfriend, Rickea Jackson, who's a star player in the WNBA. She's a second-year player going into her third year. And they had been a semi-well-known couple when it came to celebrity couples and sports celebrity couples, and I had not even been aware that there was any kind of breakup that happened, but she's being described right now as his ex-girlfriend, and the details about what Pearce may have done and some of the video that's out of people trying to arrest him, it looks bad. It looks really bad, and We'll talk about again what that kind of means for him and the Falcons moving forward. And then finally, some tough news. This wasn't the greatest weekend in terms of good news for sports because you know the Super Bowl wasn't all that fun. Halftime show was fun. Super Bowl was not. Then you had James Pearce, and then you also had what happened with Lindsey Vonn, which we'll get to. We haven't talked much Winter Olympics. I'm not the biggest Winter Olympics guy. I'm someone who typically only kind of locks in for the hockey, and ironically, this will sound very funny for you guys, the curling. I actually think curling is super cool. So I always sit down and like try to give curling a good hour watch at some point during the games. I also like the figure skate. I actually watched the figure skate last night after the game because they were playing recaps from the earlier in the day from the Olympics. But Lindsey Vonn, who had created a lot of attention, a lot of buzz because she was trying to make this crazy comeback. She's 40 in her 40. I think she's 42 years old coming into this this Olympic run. And for most, this is someone, when you get to that age and that stage of your career, you accomplish as much as she has. Typically, this is the time where you say, okay, it's time for me to bow out. Time for me to maybe find something else to do. But Lindsey Vonn was trying to defy Father Time and get back out there and win another gold medal. And she, in an attempt to do that, had tore her ACL in practice, literally last week. This was not something from last year or 6 months or last week she tore her ACL. And she was still going to try to participate in the Olympic Games. And it did not go well. 30 seconds into her first run, she takes a terrible tumble and breaks her leg. So, again, we'll break that down and talk about that as well. So, a lot going on here, man. 40 days, 40 nights. We're on day 21, recapping the Super Bowl. Again, if you want to get in the comment section, be sure to get in the comment section. We're streaming multiple avenues here. We're streaming live on YouTube. Shout out to the folks in YouTube. We're already in the chat. I'll get some chat comments up in a second. Shout out to the folks in the YouTube chat. New Generation Media is where you'll find this on YouTube. If you're watching on X, shout out to the folks on X. EJ_Stewart is where you'll find me on X. And I'm also streaming live on Instagram. Action EJ is where you'll find me on Instagram. Let's get some comments up already. Let's get the ball rolling. Y'all were commenting before I even got live. I was trying to get a couple of things straightened out right before I got live. So I started a little bit late today. Super Bowl hangover, I guess you could say. But nonetheless, we had already got, before I even got on, Bob Custer in Nevada. Good morning, EJ from Reno, beautiful Sierra Foothills. The Seahawks also almost dominated the Patriots yesterday. The football game is not close, as the score indicated. Dynasty talk. Yeah, that's going to be, I don't know if it's going to be dynasty talk for this team. I think that the Seahawks are a good team. They're young, so it's not like this is a team that necessarily is like, oh, this is kind of their last hurrah. Now they kind of go away. Like kind of what we thought the Rams were going to be, even though the Rams have been kind of around the rim since they won that first Super Bowl. That's kind of what I think people will not say about the Seahawks. I think you'll say, oh, listen, Sam Darnold's in the prime of his career. Kenneth Walker is a young running back. They got to bring him back. He's going to be a free agent. But Kenneth Walker is a young running back. Jackson Smith-Jigba is a star. He's super young. Defense has a lot of guys that are younger in the prime of their careers. This is not a team that's going away. Do I see a dynasty? I think some of the limitations you saw from Sam Darnold when it came to his ability to handle the pressure yesterday indicates probably why I don't think people will look at this and say this is the beginning of a dynastic run. I do think this is one of the proverbial or perennial kind of top dogs in the NFC. I think you'll definitely see the Seahawks back in NFC title games, possibly back in another Super Bowl, certainly back in the playoffs consistently. This is a very good team, very well balanced, very well coached. They have to figure out their coaching situation. And we'll talk about that as well because Clint Kubiak also had announced that he is indeed going to be going to the Raiders, which we all knew was going to happen, but he made it official yesterday. He just let everybody know. So we'll talk about that as well, but they got to keep the coaching staff together too. That's a big part of this. So let's get to someone else in the chat. Trans Radio or a listener, shout out to him or them if that is indeed the situation. They say, hi, Bob. Seattle's offense needs Seattle's offense needs some work still. The score shouldn't have been close. The MVP, in my opinion, was the Seahawks kicker. Yeah, I mean, I think the Seahawks offense wasn't that, the passing offense wasn't that great. I'll agree with that. I think the run offense was phenomenal. Kenneth Walker won MVP, and he was dominant. I mean, the first half, he had 90 yards. And it seemed like that was kind of the only player on offense for either team that was really making a big impact. So they were able to run the ball well, and that was why they won, because they were able to control the clock, able to sustain drives, and they were able to put themselves in field goal range to put those points up to continue to put more pressure on the Patriots. It was really one of those things where the Patriots were kind of in the game, but with every field goal that happened, it was just going to make it more and more of a climb to get back into it. This was not a game where the Patriots could have got behind more than 2 scores. I said that last week. And once that happened, you realize this is going to be tough sledding for this team. And I think Collinsworth, I didn't love Collinsworth's performance in this game as the color guy. I'm typically a Collinsworth guy. I think Collinsworth's really good. I think he got a little Tony Romo-ish at points in this game, where I think he really wanted to try to bring some life and some excitement to what was going on, and it just was nothing. And this was going to be a tough game for his style of broadcasting. So there were times where he just kind of was like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I think he literally said that at one point. Like, I think Drake made a missed throw. He's like, I don't really know what to tell you here, because he's like trying to figure out how to like big up somebody in this game, and nobody really was taking that mantle with the exception of the kicker Myers and and Jack Smith and Jigba. Again, shout out to the defense for both teams. They both played really well. But yeah, I think their offense, the passing game wasn't great. They didn't seem to have a handle completely on terms of like the pressure the Patriots were bringing. I don't know if they ever really quite figured that out, but they made enough completions, and Kenneth Walker was dominant enough that they were able to continue with the game. So we'll get to plenty more comments. Keep comments coming. Again, it's EJ Stewart, 40 days, 40 nights. We're in day 21 of this bad boy. And again, like I said, we're on YouTube, New Generation Media, on X, EJ_Stewart, on Instagram, Action EJ. Be sure to follow me in all spots. And as always, we post all of our episodes on our podcast channel. If you search New Generation Podcast Network, wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, TuneIn. All episodes of 40 Days and 40 Nights get podcasted after the show. So if you can't watch the show, maybe you watch the beginning, say, oh, I got to go to work, or oh, I got to go on a run, or I got to work out, or I got to get on the train, whatever the case may be, you could always listen to the podcast. Again, those podcast episodes get posted after the show. Just go to New Generation Podcast Network, wherever you get your podcast. So again, let's kind of reset here. Patriots lose to the Seahawks. Seahawks dominate 29-13 to win their second Super Bowl in franchise history. In some ways, I think for a lot of Patriots fans, there was hope that maybe this could kind of be a repeat of the Malcolm Butler game. Malcolm Butler, of course, was at this game. A lot of people will remember that Super Bowl being one of the more memorable Super Bowls in history, because it was a marquee matchup against two of the dominant teams of that era, and the Seahawks were so close to clinching their second Super Bowl at that time, what would have been their second Super Bowl. And of course, Malcolm Butler makes that interception. This game was nothing like that. That game was exciting. There were thrills. There were incredible plays made on both sides of the field, and that felt like one of those like, wow, this is a game. This is like a world-stopping game that was happening. This game did not have the buzz that I think a lot of people would have hoped coming into the game. It seemed like most of the conversation regarding the Super Bowl leading up to it was people arguing about the halftime show, which is never a good sign in terms of just excitement for the game. But when the ball gets rolled out and the whistle blows, you kind of hope, okay, well, once the whistle blows, we'll get good football. And we didn't get that. Again, I thought I saw two teams that early on seemed a little frazzled. And I said defenses typically start well because they're playing more on instinct and more on just, pure adrenaline, where offense requires instinct and adrenaline as well, but also it requires a lot of precision. And usually in a game of this magnitude where there's so much pressure and there's so much different about the game compared to every other game, and people will say it's just another game. It really isn't just another game. There's so many other different aspects about this game that are different than others. For a lot of teams, offenses can struggle a little bit kind of getting the ball going early, and that is essentially, I think, what happened in this game. These are two dominant defensive teams. They got off to a pretty dominant start, with the exception of Kenneth Walker being able to run the rock with a pretty good consistency. I actually thought there were times where maybe the Seahawks could have been even more aggressive running the football. I know Kenneth Walker ended up having over 20 carries, but because of how much success they were having on the ground, I think that they could have even had more success. Excuse me. I really felt like when it came to the Patriots, what I said as a X factor in the game, it was the first guy I mentioned, I think, when I did my X factors last week. And I said, Will Campbell has to perform much better than he has this postseason. He's someone who's had a pretty good regular season. Wasn't so good down the stretch, but overall was pretty solid this year. And then was struggling down the stretch and then really, really struggled in the playoffs. And I said, this is not a team that's necessarily going to have like all pros that he's going up against. He's not going up against Will Anderson or Nick Benito this week, but they still have a competent pass rush. And not just him, the entire offensive line was also going to step up. And they did not. Drake May was under siege consistently, regularly. It seemed like the Patriots couldn't handle a 4-man rush. And then Mike McDonald dialed up some really nice blitz packages, especially bringing Devin Witherspoon from the backfield. I mean, you want to talk about a guy who, if you want to talk about kind of guys who didn't win Super Bowl MVP, but maybe if Kenneth Walker doesn't have the all-time game he has, it should have been put on that list. Devin Witherspoon, I thought, was phenomenal in this game. Phenomenal in pass coverage. He was just unblockable on these blitz packages that they were sending him. I don't know if the Patriots didn't expect Devin Witherspoon, and he's at one of the best corners, one of the best cover guys. So maybe you're not anticipating that the Seahawks are going to play that aggressively, where they're going to send him that often. But I thought he was a major difference maker in some key moments in the game early on as a pass rusher. So the Patriots and Will Campbell and the rest of the line, they just really struggled, and it was clear. I think I posted it on X probably. Maybe it was early second quarter. I think I posted it. It might have been late first quarter, but it became very clear the Patriots can't block these guys. They couldn't block them in the game. They weren't going to be able to, it seemed like. So the only chance I thought the Patriots would have had would have been for Drake May to try to be even more mobile than he was. He did run 5 times. He ran a little bit. I think it was too late when he started running. If I was Josh McDaniels, and this could have led to what we were talking about with his injury, I may have even drawn up a couple of design runs. Not a lot. You're not going to try to kill a guy, especially because the guy dealing with a shoulder injury. But I might, just to shake things up, just to show the Seahawks a different look defensively. I just felt like having him sit back in a normal drop back pass situation, he had no shot. And beyond him having no shot because he was not getting protected, when he did get protected, Drake May just wasn't also that good. He missed a lot of throws. He was inconsistent. He didn't seem comfortable with what he was seeing out in coverage. And then there were a couple of times where I think they were kind of coverage sacks, where there were times where he kind of is sitting in the pocket and, the pressure's on him, but it's time to throw. If somebody's open, he can't find anybody. Kendall, when I had him on last week, kind of talked about that this could be, even though he picked the Patriots, could be the game where maybe the Patriots receivers, in terms of the lack of star power from that position, that they could be exposed. This game, they were exposed. I think that the Seahawks secondary was extremely physical. They just manned up on them and said, we don't think you can beat us one-on-one. And they couldn't. Besides one Reek Woolen play, which again, there's always one. I always told you guys, there's always one. Besides one Reek Woolen play where he's not in the right positioning, he's running late. Besides that, he played pretty good the rest of the game. Everyone else was really good the rest of the game. Job, I thought, was extremely physical, bullying guys. Again, Witherspoon was just a Tasmanian devil all over the field. These corners they just had the receivers put away with lock and key. It was completely a zip up kind of performance from the secondary. So May didn't have the receivers capable of beating one-on-one against these guys. He had a line that could not protect. So he really didn't have a shot. There were plays to be made out there, though, that he just did not make. And I think when you look back at this game, you're going to look back and say this is a quarterback who probably should have been eliminated weeks ago. Drake May had an awesome season. He was the second guy in the runner-up when it comes to MVP, and he deserved to be the runner-up in my opinion. But it was very clear when you watched him against the Chargers, and then you watched him have the game he had against the Texans, and you watched the game he had against the Broncos. You were like, oh, this is a quarterback who the game right now is too sped up for him in terms of playoff football. He's not seeing things right, and then you learn he's dealing with some kind of shoulder ailment. It just wasn't going to happen for him. There wasn't going to be the vintage Drake May game that we saw him have, not just this year, but even some games in his rookie year where he's making these spectacular plays, extending the play, running around, finding guys deep down the field. None of that magic was coming in this playoffs with how the Patriots offense was operating and how he was operating at this point in his career. I think it could be a great learning lesson. I think that I'd rather get to these moments and struggle and lose and know what it's going to take the next time you get there than to have this thrust upon you in your 7th or 8th year and you've never been in this kind of environment, right? So I don't think that it's, I'd rather be here than not if I'm the Patriots and I'm Drake May. But it just was going to be tough sailing for him. I want you guys to hear from May. He mentioned coming into the game that he wishes, in terms of what he would have liked to have done differently, he said everything.
Like to go back to the beginning and redo it, but no, there's so many plays that can decide and change the game. I think what is it, 19-7 or 22-7, and you have to have the fumble or whatever, and then return it for a touchdown. There's numerous plays in the first half where I feel like I could have made a better throw or make a better decision, and really just comes down to who makes the plays and who doesn't, and they made plays tonight.
Yeah, I mean, that was he's right. I think the strip sack or whatever they called it, an interception. I had to watch play again. I thought it was a fumble, but either way, they gave it as an interception and a pick six for a touchdown. By Nwosu. Yeah, I mean, that play was the killer. That was the play that really did end the game. But again, watching the Patriots at that point, it kind of was hard to still see them be able to put together. At that point, you would have to have 2 or 3 drives like that in order to, get back in the game. They had to sound Matt Collins. He thought, okay, maybe there's life here. But to sustain those drives against that defense, with that pass rush and how poorly they were protecting, it just seemed like it was inevitable, whether it was Julian Love's pick or that pick from Nwosu. It was inevitable that was going to happen. And you just were kind of waiting for it. Like the Love pick, I kind of was like, I know they were moving the ball well. He made a couple good throws. I'm like, yeah, but this pick is coming because he's going to have to push the ball down the field because they're down. And he's not getting protected well. And these receivers aren't getting open. So he's made a couple of throws here, but that pick is coming. Sure enough, Love right on cue gets a pick. Again, next later drive, and also gets the fumble / pick six for a touchdown. And it's curtains on the game. Yeah, this was a tough performance for him. I also want to hear from May because we had talked last week and coming into this week that there was some kind of issue with his shoulder. We still don't know exactly what was wrong with it, but he was asked about how he felt after the game, and he revealed something that we did not know coming into the game.
Yeah, my shoulder feels, I shot it up, so not much feeling. It was good to go, and it felt all right.
So he shot it up. So whatever he was dealing with required him having a pain injection, which is never a good sign if you're a quarterback you're talking about your throwing shoulder. Never something you want to have dealing with in terms of an injury. So that's concerning for sure. It definitely could have been a reason why he performed the way he performed this playoffs, why he performed the way he performed in this game particularly, which was, the stats will probably tell you it was his best game. It's hard to say if it was his worst. Again, none of these performances were that great. Since QBR was introduced in 2006, only 2 quarterbacks have had a worse QBR in a Super Bowl. And ironically, it was a game they played against each other. If you go back to 06, when the Colts played against the Bears, you had Peyton Manning, whose QBR I think was around 32, I think, and then Rex Grossman, who was just gross in that game. I think it was around 16. No other quarterback has had a lower QBR since those games than Drake may have, which he was at 40. That actually surprised me because I thought Jared Goff would have been in that class, considering his team only scored 3 points. But according to the stats, according to QBR, you saw the 3rd worst quarterback performance in a Super Bowl since 2006, since QBR was introduced. And that's what it looked like. It looked like one of the worst quarterback performances I had seen in a Super Bowl. And I think he'll be fine. I think that this is still one of the young stars of the league. And again, in a normal playoffs where there's Mahomes and the Bills don't choke and Lamar Jackson is in this and Joe Burrow is in this, he's not in the Super Bowl. Let's be real. Let's be real. Let's be honest. Let's be honest about the Patriots. Let's be honest about Drake May. This was a fluke year in the AFC where a lot of teams who typically aren't in position to compete for championships were. And I'd say fluke, but really probably a better word. I do think there may be a little bit of a changing of the guard and a resetting where teams like the Patriots and the Jaguars and maybe even the Texans and definitely the Broncos also, they probably kind of a year ahead where they should be. and teams that we thought were real title contenders, like the Bengals. I didn't think they were title contenders, but other people like the Bengals, the Chiefs, and the Ravens, they fell off a year prior to maybe most people maybe expecting their downfall. So what you end up having was kind of like this mishmash of like, well, those teams should be here because they should have more talent than apparently they did, and they're not. And then you got the teams that are here in the playoffs. They're good, but not much experience, and some of them have had easy schedules, and it just seems like they're probably a year away at least from really being serious title contenders. So you end up with the Patriots being the last team standing, but they were never going to be a team that was realistic in terms of winning a Super Bowl from whoever they saw in the NFC, which is, again, what I said, dating back to Matthew Perloff's show on Infinity Sports Network. I said it in the first few days we were talking on this 40 Days of 40 Nights run, was I thought that whoever was coming out of the AFC was getting their heads cracked. That's the exact phrasing I kept using every single time, that they were going to get to the Super Bowl and they were going to get their craniums cracked in, because there was no chance to me, given how the high level of play you saw in the NFC, the veteran teams you saw in the NFC, and I just think that the more complete football that was happening, that a Patriots team that was this flawed was going to be able to win a Super Bowl. And with May dealing with now a shoulder injury and just his lack of experience playing in the playoffs, this was kind of going to be inevitable, unfortunately, for him. I think he's, again, still one of the young stars. I think he'll be back. But this was not going to be Drake May's day, and it wasn't. And they needed him to play a lot better. I said before the game, if the Patriots are going to win, Drake May is going to have he's definitely going to have his best playoff game. Like, he could not play anywhere near the way he played the last few games of this postseason run. And he did not. He was kind of the same guy I saw in Denver, the guy I saw in the first two games in Foxborough. So the Patriots ended up coming up short. Again, Kenneth Walker was named most valuable player in this one. I thought he was phenomenal. And it's crazy watching Kenneth Walker. First of all, it's crazy watching how much better he's gotten. Because I feel like he's a guy that Seahawks don't necessarily always get the best window in terms of like the biggest primetime games or the game that gets America's game of the week so everybody could watch. Though, of course, a lot of you have Sunday Ticket. A lot of you have Red Zone. So you're probably peeking in. But Kenneth Walker, a guy that had a lot of hubbub coming out of college. He was the best running back in college football. He was kind of expected to come in and be like a plug-and-play type guy, and he has been. He's been very good. But I think there was hope that he may come in and be like the best running back in the NFL, or one of the best running backs in the NFL. And I don't know if he quite reached that yet, at least not consistently. There's been some injuries as part of the reason why. To see his growth this season and see him in this postseason really he kind of took over the playoffs. It's like, wow, this is the guy that we pretty much thought he was going to be coming out of Michigan State. Like, he's now become like this superstar running back, because there were plays in that game, and they did a great job of the broadcast of kind of slowing things down and seeing, like, there are times where you're watching a run play develop, and you're like, okay, this looks like 2 yards, not much here. And he kind of just floats and floats and floats, and he just explodes through a hole, and then he's gone for 10, 11 yards. You're like, whoa, I thought they had that bottled up. There were so many times, I think the Patriots as a defense, maybe the Seahawks offensive line was getting pushed, but it didn't seem like there were holes being created. So you think, okay, cool, we're holding the line. Eventually he's going to run into the back of his offensive lineman and we'll be able to tackle him. And he's just so patient. He's so patient, and he doesn't mind sitting around the line of scrimmage or even behind the line of scrimmage for a second or two to wait for a hole to open, and then the hole opens, and then he has a burst and an acceleration that I don't think can really be quantified or really be like explained, because he's not someone I think you look at and say, oh, he's a burner. Like, he's not really, but he is really fast, and he's really fast in like very short spurts. And I think this game, was he's been doing it all playoffs, but if you really were, obviously we are watching this game particularly, to see these runs where it looks like this is a 2-yard run and one little sliver opens up and then he's gone for 12 yards. Those are back-breaking kind of runs, because you think you've got this guy locked up, and you're going to have a play where you get him in 3rd and long or something, and now he's got to give them a first down, and now it's going to be a 3rd and short, and it just makes things easier. He was absolutely phenomenal in this game. He deserved the MVP. He was a no-doubt MVP winner. I want you to hear from Walker. He's also an inspirational story. This is a guy that thought that his football career was over, essentially. In 2018, he had blood clots in his lung, and doctors told him that his football career could be over, but thankfully for him, he got to continue his career. So he's overcome a lot to get to this moment in time. he had his family at the game. You saw his dad was mic'd up for the game, and that was really cool. I love that they're doing that, by the way. Were doing it for the college football playoff. You saw that with Trinidad Chambliss' family and the Fernandez, the Fernando Mendoza brothers and Mark Fletcher's mom. Like they did this with a lot of really cool college football parents and family members, and they should keep doing it. This is one of the coolest, newer kind of trends I've seen from NFL football broadcast. They should do it in the NBA. They should do it for all sports. This, to me, is really cool. Baseball may be a little harder because you don't know when a player is going to have a big game, typically. But I want you to hear from Kenneth Walker because he revealed something for this game. We saw his dad mic'd up, so his dad kind of became like one of the kind of the unsung like storylines of the Super Bowl broadcast. Here was Kenneth Walker saying that he wasn't sure if his dad was actually going to be at this game.
It means a lot, especially my little brother and my dad. My dad, he comes out to Seattle all the time to watch games, but he never goes to the game because he don't like crowds. So this is his first NFL game, and, we won a Super Bowl, so it means a lot to me, and I know he's proud of me for real. I wasn't the one that convinced them, actually. My agent convinced them to come out here. So I didn't think he would come. They ended up miking him up and everything, so he got out of his comfort zone.
Wow. This was his dad's first ever NFL game. Ever. Kenneth Walker's been in the league now 4 years. And I assume he's been to some college games. He said NFL. But, apparently his dad's not crazy about crowds. His dad will come out to Seattle to watch his son. But he won't actually go to the game. I guess he watches from a hotel or something. I don't know. But, yeah, Kenneth Walker's dad doesn't even go to NFL games. And he seems like he's having a good time. I mean, I would, too, if I'm watching my son go off the way he was, and I'm watching Drake May have no shot at all against the defense, so you know that you're kind of just waiting for the clock to hit zero for your son to be named MVP and for your son to win his first Super Bowl. But nonetheless, he seems to be having a great time. It did not look like a guy who was dealing with any kind of anxiety or any kind of issues with being in crowds. He seemed like he was having the time of his life, and I'm sure he did, man. That's an incredible story that this was the first time his dad saw him play in an NFL game in person, and it was this performance. It was him winning a championship. Awesome, awesome moment. I really wish that last touchdown they got called back didn't get called back. I think it was probably the right call. They called a holding on the center against Spillane. But that would have been really the true exclamation point on what I thought was a dominant performance from the Seattle Seahawks running game. And their offensive line deserves a ton of credit. Where they struggled with pass blocking, they were really good when it came to running the football. And I had said prior to the game, and Chris Collinsworth said it early as well, that I expected the game plan for the Patriots to be, whatever we do, we have to stop the running. We cannot allow Kenneth Walker to get going. If Kenneth Walker gets going, it's going to make things a lot harder because now they become a two-dimensional team. We got to make them one-dimensional where all they have to do is drop back and throw, and we got to hope that then we can make our aggressive plays and try to turn over Sam Darnold. I think they were trying to stop Kenneth Walker. I don't think that they came in and said, we're going to let Kenneth Walker run for 137 on us. I don't think that was the plan. But they clearly were not able to execute it. And once they were not able to stop the run, again, I was like, they can't win this game. The way the script is going in this game. Okay, yes, they're stopping the pass, but they can't stop the run, and they can't block. I don't know how the Seahawks, even though they don't put up a ton of points, with this running game, they'll be able to get themselves in field goal range and continue to rack up field goals throughout the night as long as Myers doesn't, have a whole issue, a mental issue, and then he can't make field goals somehow. They were going to score points, and eventually, the dam was going to break when it came to a Drake May turnover because they couldn't block him. So the Seahawks, their ability to control the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, a huge, huge difference in this game and why they won. And Kenneth Walker was deserving of Super Bowl MVP. Sam Darnold was not great in this game. He gets to win his first Super Bowl, and it's a big moment for him, a guy who overcame a lot of adversity. But I think when we think about this Super Bowl run, we will always think about Sam Darnold just because this is somebody that was completely written off as a guy that could be a franchise quarterback for an NFL team. And now he is. There's no doubt about that. Whether he played good or not, he's the franchise quarterback for a Super Bowl team, and he had maybe not played well in this game, but he played good in other games that they needed to get here. But this story of this game will never be about Sam Darnold, And it was because the passing offense wasn't that great. I think some of this definitely, again, a lot of credit does go to the Patriots. I liked that I didn't think I'd like it, but they executed it well. They were aggressive, man. Again, they were bringing blitzes. They were playing a lot of man-to-man. And they did what I wasn't sure they were going to do. They said, yeah, we're going to line up Christian Gonzalez one-on-one on JSN, but if JSN is in a slot or in a certain position, we're just going to play man-up football and see if these guys can beat us and see what they're about. And they were testing these receivers, and they were jumping routes, and they tried to make plays early in this game to try to flip the game early because I think they knew that they were going to have to have that kind of game-changing play in order to put this on their side. And fortunately, they weren't able to make a pick or anything. But I thought that the passing defense was great. Again, Gonzalez was arguably the best player on the field besides Kenneth Walker. He's a stud. I don't know if anyone else knew. I knew he was a stud. I talked about him leading up to this game. But he just was phenomenal in this one. So there were some plays that I think Darnold thought he could have got. Some big shots down the field, some touchdowns that Gonzalez didn't allow him to have. So this game wasn't about him per se, but he still says that he is happy that the Seahawks were able to come away with a Super Bowl here.
It's unbelievable. Just everything that's happened in my career, but to do it with this team, I wouldn't want it any other way. So proud of our guys, our defense. I can't say enough great things about our defense, our special teams. I know we won the Super Bowl, but we could have been a little bit better on offense, but I don't care about that right now. It's an unbelievable feeling, man. I'm just so happy for the guys in the locker room and the coaches that put in so much effort throughout the whole season.
Yeah, he knows that the offense wasn't that great in terms of the passing offense. Again, the run offense was, you can't talk about Kenneth Walker. He did his job. Everyone else wasn't that great. I thought Cooper Kupp had a really good game. I think, especially when JSN goes out with that we thought was like some kind of ankle, maybe like calf Achilles deal. Not like he tore it, but just like they say he was dealing with something with the back of his leg or back of his foot. And then we realized, oh no, he's being evaluated for a concussion because his head hit the ground. And then you saw the play. Oh yeah, that was kind of bad. I did not expect to see JSN come back in this game at all. I don't think anybody did. I was kind of stunned that he was able to come back, clear concussion protocol, and put his helmet on, and get back out on the field. I kind of was side-eyeing this, being like, okay, I hope Pro's all right, because definitely don't want to have anything tragic happen or think about this and think, oh, this is a guy out playing out there that shouldn't have been out there. But he seemed fine for the rest of the game. But I thought besides Kupp, and of course Barner scores a touchdown that kind of breaks the game open, not much else coming from the Patriots, the Seahawks offense. I did think that Kupp, though, was huge in that stretch where they went without JSN. And again, the part of the broadcast I think was good was kind of telling the story of like when they lost OBJ with the Rams, when Kupp was on the Rams. They lost OBJ and they had all these injuries to the wide receivers at that time. Kupp, who was never the kind of guy who says, hey, give me the ball. He's not one of those kind of receivers, that is going to demand the ball constantly. He apparently that game went to the Rams coaching staff, went to the master staff and said, hey, bro, give me the rock. Like this, we're going to win this game on my back. Because of all the guys that are injured, you have no choice. So you can throw me the ball. And of course, Kupp was an animal in that game. I say that with all due respect. Like he was an animal. He won the Super Bowl. Him and Aaron Donald won the Super Bowl for the LA Rams. And obviously, he's later stages of his career. He dealt with some injuries. He's not that player anymore. But I thought he stabilized the Seahawks offense during that stretch where they were able to pick up some first downs. Even where a couple of those plays where they didn't get first downs, they were able to make enough yards to put them in position to make a comfortable field goal. He's just a wily veteran. He knows how to get open. He knows the spots in the zones. And I thought that stretch when they didn't have JSN, where I said, okay, it's still close enough where like a catastrophic Darnold play makes this a game. I thought him and Walker stabilized the Seahawks offense during that stretch where they weren't a zero completely. They had a couple of short drives, but they also had a couple of drives where they were able to sustain the ball for a little bit, control the clock, even get points. So Cooper Kupp, I thought, also was very much an unsung hero for I've almost said the Rams, for the Seahawks in this game. Now he's a two-time Super Bowl champion. Something I didn't think about, but Mike McDonald after the game apparently said that he thought this was, kind of the stamping of Cooper Kupp as a future Hall of Famer, which I'm all for. But I guess what we've talked about on the show a ton is I think I'm way more pro wide receivers getting into the Hall of Fame than the actual Hall of Fame is. I would have assumed Cooper Kupp was a Hall of Famer well before this game. I would not have thought that this game was going to change how people thought of Cooper Kupp in his career. I know he's someone that maybe doesn't have the long years of a bunch of huge numbers, but he had one of the best receiving years of all time. He almost caught for 2,000 yards in a season. And injuries really were the only reason he wasn't a guy that was averaging 1,500 yards a season. In his prime, he was absolutely one of the best receivers, the most difficult guys to cover in the NFL. So it's kind of interesting. Looking at his numbers, I now kind of see why someone would argue, hey, 1 year of Hall of Fame level production, is that enough to get you in the Hall of Fame? And yeah, it's not like he wasn't good in these other years. It's just he kept getting hurt. I could see that case. Okay, yeah, maybe you don't put him in. I would have put him in because I said when I was watching, he was one of the best receivers in the NFL. It just, there were years where he got hurt, so he didn't finish the season with the best numbers. But when he was playing, it's very clear. He was, for about 3 or 4 years, he was one of the top 5 receivers in the NFL. At least that to me seemed pretty clear. So he's at a stage in his career where he's never going to put up those gaudy numbers again. But now he has 2 Super Bowls. He has a Super Bowl MVP. And this was a game where he wasn't the MVP, but he was the second best player on offense in this game for sure. And one of the reasons they won. I don't know if that's going to be enough. Again, I'm putting in a lot of the great receivers who have played, because to me, if you're an elite player at your position, you should get it. I think it's pretty simple. My thing is, like, were you a dominant player for more than one season for your career? If the answer is yes, then you're in. Then there's other factors of how many Super Bowls you won and all that other stuff. Kupp is a weird player because again, I'm just looking at his stats here, and I could maybe show this one to you guys. See if I can put up his career numbers and share my screen. So, like, he only has 2 years where he caught for 1,000 yards, which, again, is kind of stunning. I'm like, how is so many of these years he did not play 16 games or 17 games? So his first year, he bursts onto the scene. He only starts six games, but he catches for 800 yards. The next season, he only catches for 566 yards, but he did that in 8 games. And he averaged 70 yards a game. So had he played all 16 or 17 games that year, he would have got 1,000 yards. Then he catches for 1,000 yards in 2019. Then in 2020, he only starts 12 games and plays only 15, and he just misses 1,000 yards. Then, of course, the 2021 season where he becomes this, basically unguardable guy playing with Matthew Stafford in his first year. He goes for 1,900 yards, and they win the Super Bowl. 2022, again, 800 yards in 9 games, but it was only 9 games. Then 2023, 700 yards, but he only plays 12 games. Again, in these years, he's going to be around the rim or right there close for 1,000 yards. And in his last year with the Rams, 710 yards in 11 games. Again, he's right there where he's close, and he could probably get 1,000 yards this season if he plays 16 games. He just is a guy that was injury prone, and that is the reason why he maybe didn't put up the gaudy numbers you would expect. So it was a good kind of conversation to open up about, is Cooper Kupp a Hall of Famer? 2 Super Bowls will help maybe skew towards his side and help his case, because, with 1 Super Bowl ring, even with MVP, they may say, okay, these numbers aren't Hall of Fame worthy. But, I mean, there are people who think that, like, Julian Edelman is a Hall of Famer, which is insane to me. I don't think he has any case for the Hall of Fame. I don't care how many Super Bowls he won. Because that's not a guy, to me, that was a dominant player. He was a good player who had a good Super Bowl, won the MVP, but not in the same class of player as Cooper Kupp, who was an elite player, who has 2 Super Bowl rings. So I think that Kupp, I would put him in, but we've seen there are guys who, Torrey Holt has some of the best numbers in the history of the NFL. He's not in the Hall of Fame. There are so many other great receivers who never got in with better numbers than these numbers from Cooper Kupp. So that's going to be a thing to follow for sure. But I do think that he is someone that would be worthy of being in the Hall of Fame. That's for sure. This was a game in terms of, I'm trying to think of other storylines and things that I noticed from this one. I mentioned special teams was going to be a big part of this. We didn't really talk about the punt game, but that also was a huge part of this. I thought that the Seahawks were able to pin the Patriots back so many times. Well, first of all, both punt games I thought were good. There were plenty of times where these teams were dealing with having to go on 80, 90-yard drives to kind of make something happen. The punters on both teams were excellent. They got a lot of work. They got a lot of practice. They got a lot of opportunities to make their impact in the game, and they definitely did. But no, I really thought that Michael Dixon, who is one of the best punters in the NFL, I thought he was great in this game. I thought Barringer for the Patriots also was great. And then the special teams, obviously, Jason Myers. They weren't long field goals. Like the Seahawks, because they were able to run the ball so well, did enough that they weren't asking Myers to hit from 55 and 60. He's not the greatest, to me, long field goal kicker guy for me. In short range, he's pretty good. And they were asking him, the longest kick he had in this game was 41. He was in excellent weather conditions, and he was in good spots. He made all 5 of his field goals. Turns out they only needed about 3 of them to win. But he was great. Andy Borgales ended up not being much of a factor. Really no factors in the return game, though. Again, I talked about Rashid Shaheed, Marcus Jones being a potential impact in this game. They were not an impact in this game, in part because the coverage also was really good. These are 2 very well-coached special teams units, and it showed in this game. I do want to mention one thing, because Travion Henderson got an opportunity late in the game to try to get a return, to try to spark something. I thought if there was any mistake from a coaching standpoint, I thought the Patriots waited way too long to try to see if they can get Travion Henderson going. I don't think he got his first touch until the second half. It was the second half, it might have been late in the first half, but they did kind of what I said they couldn't do. I think I said literally, like, they think they could just, like, plow away Ramondre Stevenson for 3 yards in a cloud of dust and win this game. They're fooling themselves. And that's what they tried to do initially. Once they kind of saw, okay, we're going to have trouble passing pro, we're going to have to try to see if we can get Ramondre Stevenson going. And the Seahawks' run defense was rock solid. And then they finally got Henderson out there to see if maybe he could pop some runs. And he didn't have all that much more success, but he came in immediately. I think he had an 8 or 9 yard run. Now I was like, where is this guy? Like in this game, especially with the game where the game was going, where this was going to be a rock fight, especially. This is a game where he has to get a couple of touches because he's the only guy on the team that could break one. He ended up having a garbage kind of catch at the end of the game, but I kind of thought not involving him more. I know that they got here more with Stevenson being the bell cow, but you got to coach the games that you're in, and you got to game plan differently for whatever the situation entails. And this game, I thought, definitely entailed using Travion Henderson a lot more and being more creative in how they used him. And they just didn't use him in the first half. They seemed like if this was a game where the Patriots were winning or if this was close, I don't think he would have saw the field, which I think was a massive mistake because the Patriots, for a team that had trouble creating explosive plays in the playoffs, they didn't have anybody out there playing in this game against this Seahawks defense that simply does not allow explosive plays. They had nobody out there that was going to be a major threat that really gave you any pop. So I thought that was also, from a coaching standpoint, a mistake from Josh McDaniels. Speaking of offensive coaches, we did get some word about Clint Kubiak because he announced that he's officially going to be the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. And here he was after the game with Stacey Dales on NFL Network.
What does the future look like as a head coach in this league for you? Because it's going to happen.
Yeah, that's up to God, and we're gonna enjoy tonight. Yeah.
So no answers on the network.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, you guys know I'm going to Las Vegas, so I'm fired up about it. But tonight, one more for one more night. Hell yeah, I'm going. Of course I'm going. Yeah.
Just confirmed it right here.
Yeah, we did confirm it, Stacey Dales. Shout out to Stacey Dales. Yeah, I mean, this was not going to be the game that Kubiak probably puts up in the mausoleum in terms of like why he's one of the better offensive play callers in the NFL and why he deserves to be the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. He had a great playoff run and a great season. I think that, let me adjust my camera one more time, just a little bit farther right. Just one more time. Yeah, but he had a great postseason run and he had a great season calling plays. This was not his best game. It didn't seem like they had many answers for the Patriots blitz packages. There were a couple of near turnovers when it came to some damn Sam Darnold risky throws. So you're not going to put this one in the mausoleum. I do think Clint Kubiak was a really good head coaching candidate. I do think he's a really good play caller. And I think he did it. This was one of those games where it was clear that you can't lose the game. Like the only way you lose this game is if you, it sounds funny, if you lose the game. If you start playing outside of yourself, if you start trying to make this about the Sam Darnold show. There were like only a couple of moments where I thought there were times where I was like, they were throwing on third down, throwing on certain opportunities where I thought, man, like, you're running the football. Just this has to be the Kenneth Walker game. And then he corrected. And then he coached the game that he was in and realized, hey, I don't need to take major risks here, even on third downs in the red zone or in scoring position, where maybe in a different game you say, hey, like, you got to be more aggressive there, or you got to push the ball down the field. And they weren't going to do that because they saw if we keep scoring field goals, they can't score. they can't score touchdowns. So if we keep just racking up points against them, Mike McDonald was smart. He didn't have some crazy fourth down decisions or anything like that. They just kept taking the points, and that was going to be the way to win the game. So while I wasn't the greatest, clinic when it comes to offensive play calling and explosive plays for Clint Kubiak's offense, I did think that he did a good job calling the game in terms of just, again, playing the game that he was in and realizing, okay, if we don't have answers for that pass rush, we're going to have to be more selective with when we throw the ball, and we're going to have to rely on Kenneth Walker to just simply keep racking up points, keep racking up yards, so that we could, kind of put this game out of reach. I didn't think this was the greatest offensive play calling game, obviously, with Josh McDaniels. And I thought that Mike Vrabel also kind of had a gaffe. It didn't end up actually mattering, but you're down 19-0. You score a touchdown. You got to go for 2. To kick a field goal there and make it a 12-point game, which means you still have to score 2 touchdowns, especially for a team that was showing they really couldn't score touchdowns consistently. There you got to go for the 2-point conversion. You make it an 11-point game. Now you have an opportunity to where you could make it a 1-score game on the next field goal that you have if you're able to keep the game close. Vrabel decides to take the extra point, which gives you is no impact. Because if you don't get the 2-point conversion and you're down 13 points, that's totally fine. And there's no difference between being 12 and 13. There's none. I don't know. And then some of these things where it's like, in the moment, maybe you're thinking, hey, like, we're just happy that we scored, and I don't want to take away the momentum of us scoring a touchdown by trying to go for 2 here. There are, I guess, reasons, just in terms of, like, feel for the game as to why maybe Vrabel wouldn't want to go for 2 there. But that was just math, where it's like, this is going to be a game where it's going to be tough to score, and you're going to have to take as many points as possible if you can. This is the time to say, all right, let's go for 2 here. This is a short window for us to get another score, and it would have actually given them a better opportunity, I think, to win. Ended up not mattering because the offense still had issues and they weren't able to compete consistently. But Vrabel, who I think I look at him as a guy who is really usually good with those like situational football kind of things. I think that kind of was my sign as well, being like, this team is just they're not going to win this game. They're just completely out of whack, completely out of their depth in this game, because Vrabel is usually really good at that stuff, and he just totally goofed late in the game, not going for 2 points there. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you're down 12, you're down 13 points. Like, again, a extra point doesn't do anything. But if you go for 2 there, you're able to cut the lead to 11. But he obviously, defensively, I thought they were fine, but the offense and some of that stuff ended up not being the greatest deal. So I was right when it came to Seahawks plus the money, or minus the money. Get that right. Not right on the over-under. A little annoyed by that. I was close, and Kenneth Walker runs in that touchdown. I get it. So I was really annoyed. It would have been a kind of a real backdoor, and I kind of thought the Patriots would have a little more success offensively, and obviously I thought the Seahawks would have much more success offensively. But so sorry if I gave you the wrong advice on the over. I thought that this would be a game that would have more fireworks as the game went on. I also kind of think if Jason doesn't get hurt, Seahawks probably score more points. But again, that's neither here nor there. But I did give you, I thought the Seahawks would win. I thought they win by double digits. So that was easy money, I thought, on the 4.5. I think if you wanted to do an alternate line of giving them 6 even, I thought I would have been comfortable with that. I just did not think this team was that good in terms of the Patriots. It wasn't the Seahawks are a good team, and they're a Super Bowl team. So you got to say that they're better than good. They're great. But this to me almost was more about they were facing an opponent that I don't think was Super Bowl caliber. I don't think that this was a team that, if we really look under the hood and see how they got here, you consider the easy schedule, you consider then the playoff run that they went on, when it seemed like these other teams they were playing were self-destructing, not so much that the Patriots were playing so well. In fact, they actually were playing quite poorly in some aspects of the game. To think that was going to get fixed in the Super Bowl, I didn't see that happening. Those things don't get fixed in the Super Bowl. You may be able to fix in the divisional round. Maybe they'll fix things in the conference championship. But the Seahawks get 2 weeks to prepare, and to see all your flaws out in the open so clearly with that defense and how good they are in terms of personnel and how good Mike McDonald is as a coach, both as a head coach, but also he's apparently the first coach ever to win a Super Bowl calling defensive plays, which is really cool. I was like, wow, I didn't know that. I feel like most head coaches, even the defensive guys, don't call their plays. So maybe that's just a nature of the beast. Because we've had plenty of defensive guys win Super Bowls, obviously. I was a little surprised. I guess Belichick didn't count, but I guess he doesn't. I guess because he had Roman Cornell, and then he had Flores was calling plays one year. He's had a bunch of different guys. Obviously he doesn't count, but he is so involved in the defensive play calling. I thought, wow, Belichick never called plays. I guess he didn't. I thought about it. So McDonald being the first guy to win a Super Bowl calling defensive plays as a head coach, that's a really cool. That's a cool thing to have. A cool stat to have. I mean, now he's gonna be able to have that for the rest of his life. He's gonna go down as one of the better defensive masterminds, maybe in the history of the NFL. When you consider that stat, that most head coaches don't even try to do this. Once you have the issues that you have with all the stuff you got to deal with being a head coach, they usually hand that off to defensive coordinator. Now, offense, we see plenty of offensive play callers win Super Bowls, right? Andy Reid has called plays. Sean McVay has called plays. Mike Shanahan has called plays. So, there's plenty of guys throughout the history. Mike Holmgren, where offensive guys, we've seen plenty. Haven't seen a defensive play caller win a Super Bowl ever in the history of the NFL. We have one this year, Mike McDonald. He successfully called plays in this game, and he had the Patriots in hell. He called a good game too. It wasn't just he called the game, but he wasn't really a factor in anything that happened. Again, the Witherspoon blitzes were just killers. The Patriots just did not have an answer for them. He was too good on his pass rushes. They were coming at times when they weren't expecting him, and May wasn't feeling the heat on them. So he also coached his ass off. This was in terms of defense, this was a coaching clinic. This was a dominant performance from that standpoint. I know a lot of people, and I mentioned Josh McDaniels has a lot of experience preparing for Super Bowls, and he's a good offensive play caller. This was a game where, just like Drake May, he also is gonna have to lick his wounds after this one. I mean, he got taken to the woodshed. This was a belt to ass kind of defensive clinic that Mike McDonald put on the Patriots offense. So he's the man. He's the guy that won the Super Bowl. And I think when we talk about the best head coaches in the NFL, he has to skyrocket up that list. I mean, I don't think he even in this year was getting mentioned as one of the best coaches in the NFL. I think now he's got to be in your top 5. He's the first guy to ever do this. Call offensive plays and win a championship and have a great defense. Not just, he's calling plays and their defense is just average. No, they're if not the best, one of the best defenses in the NFL. I think certainly the best defense in the NFC. And they had 2 definite dominant defensive performances to get here, both in the divisional round and then the Super Bowl. And they won 14 games with him calling defensive plays. McDonald, man, shout out to him. Phenomenal work from him as the Seahawks celebrate their second Super Bowl here. I also want to bring up one more thing on Sam Darnold in terms of he was talking to, obviously, this was Katie Hartung after the game on NBC, and he was asked about overcoming adversity and what this moment means for him considering everything he went through.
I think that's it. I think all my teammates, all my coaches I've ever had, always believing in me. I've always believed in myself because of my family and my friends. So it's as simple as that. As long as you believe in yourself, anything's possible.
Yeah, Sam Darnold's an easy guy to root for. He's extremely humble. For a guy who has potentially a lot of grievances for how his career has gone, I have really respected that he just hasn't made his life and his career about grievances. Anybody who has a pulse and knows anything about football can look at what happened with the Jets and say, yeah, he wasn't good there, but clearly the Jets didn't do nearly enough to support him. The way they managed the team, the coaches they hired, they just were a dumpster fire and are still a dumpster fire. You can look at Carolina and say, okay, well, he failed in Carolina. You say, wait a minute. Let's also look under the hood there. He had a college coach in Matt Rule, who we now realize was not really NFL caliber Then the ownership situation was completely in flux. Jerry Richardson had to sell the team, and then he gives it to David Tepper. Like, that also was a complete and utter mess. So then, yeah, those two places he didn't succeed. And again, I think he had room to grow. And I think we watched last night, he still has room to grow. But for a guy who, like, this was, Baker Mayfield, for example. Like, Baker Mayfield loves to tell you all about all his grievances. He loves to tell you about all the people that doubted him, all the people that, did him wrong, and why, like, he things would have been better in his career had other people did their jobs, right? That's the guy, ironically, the guy that was drafted ahead of him. Sam Darnold is the anti-Baker Mayfield, where he is nothing about grievances, nothing about other people's faults. He takes accountability for where he feels like he struggled, and then when he is shown that, he was capable of being a Super Bowl quarterback, he was capable of being that guy, he still doesn't make it about the grievances. He still doesn't make it about, I showed you. He just makes it about, I'm so happy that I had the support system I had the family I have the friends I have, and I knew I had confidence, and they continue to instill the confidence in me, and now I can celebrate the Super Bowl championship. Even in this game, where they win a Super Bowl, where, the victor goes to spoil, so you can tell the story however you want, right? Like, the winners of the wars can always tell the story of how the war went down. He could have went around and said, yeah, I did it, and I did blah, 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 blah. No, he's like, I wish the offense played better. But it's just, everything about him this season, and, like, what we've heard from him and what we've seen from him, and it's why he was drafted where he was. Like, it was why NFL scouts coming out of USC were drooling over this guy, because he has the perfect makeup to be a franchise NFL quarterback. He doesn't make it about himself. He's very low-key. He's all about the team. But he does have a level of competitiveness I think maybe people didn't expect. And that may be the one thing that he has surprised people with, where I think people thought, okay, this is kind of a Southern California guy who was kind of expected to be a superstar in high school and college, and he was handed New York, and things didn't go well, and they didn't help him, but he also didn't overcome adversity. I think there's some people that maybe thought Sam Darnold was kind of soft, I'm being honest. And he's shown he is nowhere near that. He's extremely tough. And I think people who thought he was soft, I think that also was nonsense. This is a guy who took a hellacious beating playing for the Jets and took a beating playing for the Panthers. And while he didn't perform well through those beatings, he kept getting up and kept playing. So I knew he was a tough guy, but I think this showed a level of mental toughness that I think maybe people didn't expect. They thought maybe he would wilt in this moment and wilt under this pressure. He didn't cost his team. Did he play well? No, but the game, the script, the way things were going down, he wasn't going to play well in this game. They still were able to win. He's still a Super Bowl champion. And now you gotta have to put respect on Sam Darnold's name. When I think about the top quarterbacks in the NFL, what is he ranked now? Is he top 5? Is he top 10? I think you gotta catapult him, regardless of how this game went in terms of his individual performance. I think you look at, the big 4, you say, probably with Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, and Jackson. And that's I'm not putting these guys in any kind of order. They're like a grouping of the AFC guys that kind of run the show for all these years. And then obviously Matthew Stafford, the MVP, who I think right now is the best quarterback in the NFL. He's obviously right there. So he's not top 5. He's not cracking those guys, I don't think, yet. After that, though, now we're talking about the Dak Prescotts of the world, the Drake Mays of the world, the Trevor Lawrences of the world, Caleb Williams. I think some people still will not just give up completely on Jaden Daniels. But I don't feel like I'm naming names that I feel like, oh no, those guys are obviously better than him. I can't say that based on what I've seen from those guys. So I think he's in that, Jalen Hurts obviously as well. I think he's in that 6 to 10 range. I think you could probably, pick where you want to put him. I guess Brock Purdy's probably also in that conversation as well. But he's in that class. He's a top 10 quarterback. I'm doing this off rip right now, off the dome, thinking about the guys. I don't know, Chad, if there's any quarterbacks I didn't name. But I think the top 5 I think are clear. I don't know who else you would have as a guy ranked ahead of what's the name at this point? Sam Darnold. Transports Radio listener says, in my opinion, definitely not top 5, but top 10 likely. Yeah, I think that's fair. I don't see a guy who is a top 5 guy. I see a guy who I'd say, yeah, top 10. You have to put him there. Because in terms of Super Bowl winners in recent years, because some people say, some people like to catapult Super Bowl winner super high, which I'm fine with that. If that's how you are, I'm not gonna like. Some people say Jalen Hurts deserves to be 6 or 7. Cool. I like Jalen Hurts. I think Jalen Hurts has some flaws. I think Jalen Hurts has shown that like if he doesn't have the greatest play caller, that he sometimes can struggle. But the guy had. You want to talk about Super Bowl performances? The guy played 2 of the best Super Bowl performances, games that you will see from a quarterback, especially the one he lost. Ironically, it was one of the better performances you'll see from a quarterback. So I certainly have no problem putting Jalen Hurts in that conversation. So if you want to put him at 6 or whatever, okay, fine. There just aren't a lot of guys who have won Super Bowls, because Patrick Mahomes won them all, right? Like Mahomes won them all, and then you got one from Stafford, and then you go back Brady, who's retired. Now you're getting the guys who haven't played in years. So there really isn't a lot of guys out there that you can point to and say, oh, well, there's all these other guys that have rings, so let's put those guys ahead of Sam Darnold. The only guy you can really point to is Jalen Hurts outside of the top 5. So that leaves you at least, the very least, he's 7 to 10. And that's at a minimum. Some people may want to argue today that he's better than Jalen Hurts. I'd love to hear the conversation, hear the case for that. I mean, today you might have to put him ahead of him. Today, it's tough. I'm really thinking about it. I'm trying to think like why I put him ahead of Hurts. I just think Hurts in the passing offense for the Eagles is so suspect, and I don't know. Whereas with the Seahawks, I gotta figure out who the offensive coordinator is going to be, because that is a huge deal for them. Because I really do think that having Clint Kubiak is a massive plus. So we gotta figure that aspect of it. But assuming they get somebody competent and like they don't have to fall off a cliff in terms of offensive play calling, and they're able to keep Kenneth Walker, I think again this is where they're gonna be. I think they're gonna be in the playoffs. I think they're gonna be moments. There probably will likely be Sam Darnold versus Jalen Hurts games in the playoffs. I think that's a reality. I think he's top 10. I think he's top 10. I want to know what you chat. I want to know what you guys think. Do you think Sam Darnold is a top 10 quarterback? Shout out to Trans Sports Radio listener for that comment. I think he's top 10. We got Matthew Graves just about to say MKP. He's not top 5. He has to be top 10 this morning. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think top 10. I think is where most of the chat is landing. I think most people agree that right now he's probably right top 10 at this point. Getting back to the chat here, talking Super Bowl Sunday. Views been lively, chat's been lively. Really appreciate you guys rocking with me. Very good question here. EJ, how badly are the Vikings kicking themselves? This adds more fuel to the fire of Kwesi was fired because of Darnold's decision. Yes, I think it's also someone else said. So actually, it was the rapper Freddie Gibbs. This random person, but everybody's talking football today and last night because we're all watching the Super Bowl. And Freddie Gibbs was like, "Man, the Vikings must feel like dumbasses today." And kinda, yeah. You probably feel awful. Yeah, you took a shot on the guy you drafted first round super high because you thought this guy was a franchise guy, and you had a guy who, while he was terrible in the playoffs and he was terrible in the last game against the Lions that didn't allow you to get home field advantage in the playoffs, he still won you 14 games. Right? And he went to the next game and won 14 games. Like the guy, that thing we say about Jalen Hurts that annoys some of his detractors, some of the Eagles fans when they talk about like what's good about him. You say he's a winner, and then people get upset. It's like, what the hell does that mean? Like, well, if he's winning and the defense is dominant, then how does he get credit for that, right? And it's like this like bugaboo that Eagles fans and Philadelphia radio callers and listeners and people on the radio, my friends over there, Spike Eskin and Jack Fritz, these people going over how to describe Jalen Hurts and what he does well. When you say winner, it's like, okay, what does that mean and how do we describe that? Sam Darnold, you kind of have to do the same thing. Like when you say what's good about him, you got to say, well, it sounds crazy because of like what he's been through. The guy's a winner. Like he was at a team where they were an average team and they lost their starting quarterback, and he goes there and they win 14 games. And then he goes to another team that was like also kind of an average team who lost their quarterback. 2 quarterbacks I think people thought kind of highly of. Like people thought Kirk Cousins, maybe not a superstar or Super Bowl quarterback, but you thought, okay, he's pretty good. And this is probably a downgrade. And then they win 14 games. And then you go to Seattle. There are a lot of folks who were saying that, man, going from Geno Smith to Sam Darnold, I don't know if this is an upgrade at all. Like, Geno Smith was carrying a Seahawks offense that they thought wasn't that good. And then they win 14 games. At a certain point, it's like, man, like this is not about, this is not about like, oh, he's struggling in the playoffs or what he did with the Jets. Like the guy is a winner. Like that's something that you can't. It's obvious. He won a Super Bowl. He's had 2 straight years where he's won essentially almost 30 games back-to-back year and combined with these seasons. How do you not describe Sam Darnold as a winner at this point in his career? So yeah, the Vikings probably feel terrible, and now they're stuck with 9. Who I didn't love McCarthy coming out of the draft. He was somebody that I wouldn't have touched. I kept saying I'd rather let someone else figure that guy out. Maybe he's good, but I'm not going to bet my career on me making him good, because I think that he had a lot of growth and a lot of learning to do. And he had a really rough first full year starting. This was his second year, obviously, in the NFL, but he was more or less a rookie. I don't want to just throw him out completely and say this guy can't play, because that's what we did with Sam Darnold, right? Like, how many of these quarterbacks we just throw them out and say, oh, they're useless, they can't do anything. And then they enter the prime of their careers, they learn, they get better, and then they're stars, right? Like, Baker Mayfield's a great example. There's so many of these quarterbacks. Like, we got to get out of the whole burying quarterbacks, pretty much, off rip if they're not great. Some of them, they will never be good. Like, I think Zach Wilson's never going to be good. I feel pretty confident about that. But, yeah, people thought Baker Mayfield, he's cooked, he's washed, people were filling him out, and then he goes to Tampa Bay, he becomes a franchise guy. People thought that Sam Darnold was cooked and washed, and then he goes to Seattle and becomes a franchise guy. He was a star with the Minnesota Vikings. Jared Goff, a guy who took a team to a Super Bowl. Things didn't work out. He's cooked and washed. He goes to Detroit and becomes a star quarterback. So you can't just throw these guys out completely, but you're sitting today, if you're a Vikings fan, and you think about where you were, where you had one of the best teams in the NFC, one of the best offenses in the NFC, and you decided to take the risk of upsetting that apple cart completely to take a chance to see if if J.J. McCarthy could be that guy. And he was not. He wasn't close. It feels like a far way away from also being that guy. And that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if they weren't a team that looks ready to win a championship. That's what makes this thing all screwed up. If they had the patience to say, hey, listen, we're going to this was the Giants. And Jackson Dart showed some good signs, but he showed some signs where he struggled too, right? But they're the Giants. They're not trying to win a Super Bowl tomorrow. They don't have, Justin Jefferson, who is kind of like he's been a good teammate and a good guy so far, but you kind of know with him and all the receivers, it's only going to be a matter of time before he starts saying, yo, what's going on here? Am I wasting my prime years playing with this guy? Everything was ready to go. You have to keep Brian Flores another year. They need to try to win now. They're a win now team. They're 100% a win now team. Look at all the money they spent on their defense. And their quarterback gives them no chance to win now. So that's where, you're going to feel bad right now. You're going to feel like maybe you blew it. Maybe we should have brought back Sam Darnold. And what I think they should have did is these teams are just, and it's because of this, and I understand the logic. The logic is, listen, your best chance to win a championship is when your quarterback is on their first contract because they're not getting paid that much. If they're the stars you think they're going to be, once they start getting paid, it's going to start screwing up your cap. So I understand the logic that you have to get those guys out there early if you can. You got to see if these guys are any good. And if they're good, you got to try to maximize that window where they're not making that much money by bringing in the support system they need. Signing receivers, trading for guys, signing offensive linemen, right? You're doing all those things. Say, hey, we got all this money that we're able to spend because we're not spending $40, $50, $60 million on our quarterback. So I understand the logic of we have to see if this guy has it. We can't pay Sam Darnold even $30 million, which is what he got. He didn't get some crazy bad, but he got essentially $35 million a year AAV. We can't afford to give him $35 million and paying a first-round quarterback. I get it, I guess. But they should have been more comfortable saying, no, we'll sign Sam Darnold to that 3-year deal. He'll be the starter for as long as he's the better guy. And maybe that's forever. Maybe you see J.J. McCarthy in practice, you see him in preseason. You'll have opportunities to realize whether or not this guy can play or not. Behind the scenes whether or not he can play. And I knew that there were problems with the Vikings in terms of their confidence in him when they spent a week watching Aaron Rodgers film to figure out if they needed to go to Aaron Rodgers. That shouldn't have been the situation. You should have been able to know from what you saw from J.J. McCarthy and how he was understanding offenses, how he was developing, and eventually he had been cleared to play, so you started to see him move around a little bit. You should have been able to figure out, say, you know what? No, we got our guy. We know our guy can play. The fact that they had to take a week to watch Aaron Rodgers, what are you going to learn about Aaron Rodgers at age 42 that you didn't know about him already? Like, we know who Aaron Rodgers is as a player, even at this point in his career. So when that story came out that, we need to watch Aaron Rodgers for a week, and Kevin O'Connell was just like sitting there and watching the film, trying to figure out if this is the better way to go instead of McCarthy. I knew that their confidence in McCarthy was shaken, and from that point, I knew that this was probably a mistake that they let Sam go. Yeah, it was a mistake, no question about that. Other stuff in the chat, Bob Custer, the Jets are an awful organization. Yep, tell me about it, bro. They stink, and now Sam Darnold once again proving that they're a terrible organization. Other stuff in the chat here, Matthew Graves saying, Pat, I think just got exposed after the criticism of their cupcake schedule. Not to say they can't learn and come back. May's still very young, but they were definitely exposed offensively. Yeah, and what's weird is like their offense was really good this year. That's what kind of, I think for Patriots fans, they sit back and say like, okay, yeah, our schedule and all that stuff. But like, man, like our offense, even against the few good teams we played, was really good. Like, why did it just completely go into the crapper? Again, was it May's injury? I would argue again that there's just a different level with all sports. Playoff sports is different than regular season sports, including in the NFL. The NFL, along with college football, probably is the sport with the highest stakes in the regular season, but it's still not postseason. And the speed of the game, the way these teams are locked into the game plans, it's just entirely different. And I think that Patriots offense that maybe looked good in the regular season, playing against these kind of teams at this level that know what you want to do, that now have 17 or 18 or 19 games of film to watch, they just weren't gonna perform this game. Like again, I hate some games. I just see clear as day. This to me was a game I kind of felt like I just saw clear as day, and it sucked for the Patriots that they weren't able to overcome. But it was clear that they weren't gonna be able to overcome what was happening with the situation. So they ended up going out here, man. They lose the Super Bowl. I don't know if they'll be back in the Super Bowl with this group. May is so young that there's going to be catch up, right? There's going to be other teams that are going to catch up to what he's doing, and there's going to be ebbs and flows. Success isn't just like a rocket ship. It's not linear, right? There's going to be peaks and valleys. It's rare you have a guy like Patrick Mahomes that bursts onto the scene, gets to the AFC Championship game, okay, loses a heartbreaker, and then next year just goes to the Super Bowl, and then he's kind of just consistently in the Super Bowl every year. It's not how it goes for most quarterbacks, or like Tom Brady. Even Tom Brady had peaks and valleys. Like the first, three of the first 4 years he's playing in Super Bowls, and then there's that long Super Bowl drought that he went in, right? So there's going to be peaks and valleys to a career. But I think the Patriots, he's a star. They'll be a winner with him. But it wasn't going to happen in this go around. Not for the Patriots. So the other thing from this game, obviously, Seahawks win. But to be honest, the most exciting, thrilling, vibrant performance we got was not from anybody that played football in this game. It was from Bad Bunny. It was a performance at halftime that I thought was great. I'm not someone who listens to a ton of Bad Bunny music. I am someone who hangs out with somebody adjacently who listens to Bad Bunny, because of course if you followed me on Maggie and Perloff show, Manny Rodriguez, who was our phenomenal associate producer and board operator, who was responsible for, I'd say, 98% of the music that was played. I had some editorial things where I say, hey, play this or play that. Most of the part of the time, he was the guy calling the shots when it came to the music, and I gave him that role, and he did a great job with it. And what I loved about what he did was he brought a flair that I couldn't bring. I think I'm pretty good at when it comes to like picking music for a show and things like that. And I'll be honest, it's like a little truth serum for EJ. A little bit of a hard thing to give up. You can't do everything when you're an executive producer on a show. You got to delegate. You got to give other people some roles. It's not like we have a huge staff, but we have some people working on the show besides me, right? So that's something I really take pride in, is the music and the sound of a show. So to give that up to somebody was a little tricky, but I knew it was something Manny was really good at and something Manny really wanted to do. And he was phenomenal with it. And one of the things that he introduced to not just me, but our entire audience, was so much of the Latin music, but particularly Bad Bunny, which he played a ton. And the music was good. Like, I don't know how many times you get like people in the comments or callers who will call and say, yo, the music, they love the music. Like Manny did a phenomenal job with it. So because of Manny, I end up listening to a lot of Bad Bunny because at my job, Manny played Bad Bunny, not every day, but almost probably every day. So I wasn't someone who was completely unfamiliar with his music. I'm not someone who listens to him on my own, but I've heard Bad Bunny songs. There have been a lot of conversations about like the cultural touchstone of this, and there are folks who feeling like this is it's un-American to have a Puerto Rican man up there, singing songs not in English, and that forced some folks to want to go to other. I guess there was some other alternative halftime show. I don't know what's more. I don't know what yells I'm divisive is. I'm so upset that there's a Latino man singing in Spanish that I will do my own halftime show. I don't know how you can be more divisive, but nonetheless, this was the route that other people wanted to go to. So I guess there was another show. I will say I watched this show. I didn't go to that other show, and this show was awesome. This, I think, to me, I'm trying to compare it to other recent shows. This was one of the better ones in the last 5 or 6 years. Let's just keep it to, I guess, the Jay-Z halftime show booker run that he's been on, which I guess begins with, I want to say Rihanna, I think is the first one. I want to say, I'm not 100% sure. So Rihanna, the LA, the LA one with all the hip hop acts. We had, Eminem, Snoop Dogg, Dre, Kendrick Lamar, Mary J. Blige. You had, of course, Kendrick Lamar's show that was solo. Actually, let me pull up the actual list, so I'm not doing this off the dome. I got most of the ones from Jay-Z since he started doing it, but list of Super Bowl halftime shows. There you go. So I can do this off the rip and not just be trying to do this off the top of my head, so it'd be a lot more cleaner for you guys to understand what I'm trying to tell you guys. So, why did they do this in this order? I gotta go backwards. So, Shakira. I knew there was one I was missing. I don't know why I forgot. I don't know why I forgot Shakira and Jennifer Lopez. I think a lot of the American men in the world didn't forget that one. I guess Maroon 5 was also in there. I don't remember if that was the beginning of when Jay-Z started, but I knew Shakira and Jennifer Lopez was a big one when it came to the Jay-Z. Perfect. It says here. Yeah, so Shakira and Jennifer Lopez was the first one that Jay-Z did. So in this era of the Jay-Z Rock Nation halftime shows, you had Shakira, Jennifer Lopez, The Weeknd, the hip-hop show of Dre, Snoop, Eminem, Mary J. Blige, and Kendrick Lamar. You had Rihanna. You had Usher. Can't forget Usher. Kendrick Lamar, and Bad Bunny. Yeah, Bad Bunny is among the top ones of this. I enjoyed all these shows. I think all those shows were really good. Rihanna was my favorite, but I think you can make a case for this one would be some people's favorites. I think a lot of people like Usher. I think a lot of people like The Weeknd. I think a lot of people liked the hip-hop show, too. I thought that this one was probably more towards the upper echelon of the best, not what everything is the worst of this. But I think for me, I'm speaking for myself. I can't speak for any other American or anyone else. For me, this has been a good run. It's not like whatever. Like, I'll be honest. Like, I love Kendrick Lamar, but if I had to say what's on the lower end of this, probably Kendrick Lamar's show, and to be honest, I know. Again, because I forgot it happened. Probably the Shakira J-Lo show. Not that it was bad. All these shows were really good. It's just in terms of like what I'm looking for from a halftime. Those are probably my least favorites of the ones that we've seen so far. But they've all been great. It's kind of hard to pick what's the worst of these. These are all amazing, phenomenal performers. I think Bad Bunny is closer to Usher and Rihanna near the top in terms of like better ones in this Jay-Z run. This performance, there were so many aspects of this that were really cool. How about the married couple? That was really great. Like to get married at the Super Bowl during the halftime show, and to do that so seamlessly in the show and not have it completely like derail the show and be this like sideshow thing, and to make like his Super Bowl performance like a wedding party towards the end of that, like I that was maybe my favorite moment. I was like, oh, and maybe I'm biased. I am having a wedding this year. I am getting married, so there may be some bias with that. But I thought that was really cool. I was like, oh wow, that's amazing. And some people were like, oh, is that a real wedding? I knew it was real for a couple of reasons. Number one, they were acting too like good. Like they seemed too like, oh my God, this is actually happening, and there's a wedding that's happening, and they were really excited about it. So that was number one. Number two, and I'm afraid to say number two. I'm gonna do it though, because this is my show, and damn it, whatever. The brother that was getting married. There's a very diverse, very vibrant, scene of people that were, performing. They seemed like they were primarily Latino performers there. And at this wedding party, that brother, I don't think he was Latino. Maybe he was, and if he is, I my sincerest apologies. But he didn't seem like he was kind of like rocking with the music as well as everyone else that was going on. And I'm looking at him, I was like, I'm thinking, well, they wouldn't just pluck some random white dude to do this like interracial wedding here. I don't think this is the time where I don't think so. I don't know. It seemed odd. And I was like, I think this is real. I think that's a real couple. Like, because I don't think this guy is like he's not part of the performance. Like, because to me, like, these performers, they were dancing, they were doing all this stuff. Like, these two seem to be the only two that weren't like doing that. So I was like, I don't think these people are part of like the show. They are, but I think they're actually like people who just got married. They're really excited about this, and they were, which was really awesome. Small thing, but I love that like Xander Zayas, the Puerto Rican boxer, and they had another boxer in there to start. Again, just speaking about the Latin culture and having them in there. Him giving the little kid the Grammy was super cool as well. I know people have tried to say that was the kid that ICE had detained. I don't think that it is. I think I've seen multiple people saying that was a child actor. I know he kind of looks like him, but I don't think that. I'm pretty sure that was not the kid that was detained by ICE. But he gives the kid the Grammy, which he just won last week, which is, again, super cool moment. But we want to talk about the dancing, the music, the set. I mean, take me essentially to Puerto Rico on the football field. It was one of the most unique sets I've seen for a halftime show, where a lot of it is really based on a lot of like high-end technologies, a lot of moving platforms and people up high on things. Like, I really liked how practical it was with a lot of stuff happening. Yeah, he would go up to the top of the house or whatever, the top of the barrio, but like for the most part, it was very much like, we have this grassy field, and we're gonna use like the heights of the grass and go in and out of the homes and stuff. And it was neat, man. It was neat. Listen, I don't know what he was saying. I don't speak Spanish, so I can't tell you how great the lyrics were. I do know breath control. I do know, again, like voice inflection. I do know those things, and he was flawless. There was never a time where he was out of breath, or he didn't sound like he was strong, or he was having to get boosted by the background, vocals. Like, he was carrying this with his singing and his rapping, and he was great. I think he was doing it at a high level. It just in his language. It's not my language I speak, but it was very clear that he was having no problem with that. And he was doing a lot of moving. He was dancing. He was going up and down again, going up and down the houses. And one time he's on the roof of the house. Then he fell through the roof of the house. Like, he was awesome. You got the cameos, which were great. I loved Lady Gaga. That was a great choice to throw her in there. Shout out to Ricky Martin. I was awesome. I was like, oh crap, Ricky Martin's here. That's really great. Love that Ricky Martin was there. I actually really also enjoyed like the early part of it when when the people that were outside like the house or the bar, wherever he was, and like all those like Latino and Latina celebrities are there. So you got like Karol G, and you got Cardi B, and Jessica Alba, and Pedro Pascal. Because like I missed Jessica Alba. Very upset that I missed Jessica Alba. But I caught Cardi B, and I caught what's her name? I caught Pedro Pascal. I was like, oh my God, they're famous people on the stage that are just dancing. I thought they're not performing or anything. They're just having a good time. But he made it a party. It felt like a party that we all were invited to, right? Like, it was a party that was an intimate setting that, hey, what would a Bad Bunny, show be like? It was a small intimate house party. This is what it would feel like. And to bring that to the stage and bring that to the Super Bowl with all the conversation about how it was going to be about hate and division and anger. I saw smiling faces. I saw people laughing, dancing, just vibing. I didn't see hatred. I didn't see death to America. I didn't see any of this stuff. And, it pains me, and it's so sad to me that so much of the conversation around this thing was about how much it was going to be about hatred. And I was like, there was nothing about hatred there. There's no reason just because you see a Puerto Rican man speaking Spanish that means that it's hatred to America. First of all, Puerto Rico is part of America, obviously. I didn't think that had to be said. But apparently for idiots like Jake Paul, who actually live in Puerto Rico, who wants to call this man a fake Puerto Rican, we have to be reminded of that Puerto Rico is a part of America, therefore he is also American, and this is a part of American culture. And I know people think of America maybe in a certain landscape or a certain, like, a narrow view, but if you're from where I'm from in New York City, if you're from other places in the country, like, that is as much America as cornfields and whatever. Like, it's the same. It's all part of this. That is, like, that felt like I was hanging out in East Harlem. Like, that didn't feel any different than what the foreign existence of something that people don't understand, right? Or that no one could comprehend what was going on. This was not, bringing, and first of all, I wouldn't care, by the way. This is an international event. Like, U2 is British. We have all these British bands, all these people from all these other different countries performing. I don't know what the big deal is from someone not being from the continental United States being this issue. But this was not bringing K-pop to the Super Bowl, which, by the way, I wouldn't care. Like, it wouldn't. I don't know why that's like an affront to people, where it's like, oh my God, how dare they not do something where something being spoken in English? Like, but it's not even that. Like, it's not like, okay, like, and K-pop has become a big part of American culture too. But okay, that is something that originated in Korea, obviously, and it's now been assimilated into American culture, and that would be great if they did that. But it's not even that. Puerto Rican culture is American culture. It's part of America. So that's part of why this whole thing was mind-boggling to me, and it was sad just because I was like, wow, this is so much fun. Like, this is just fun. There was nothing about this that was like, and like if Bunny had the message, hey, we are all American, right? Like, he tried to have a united message towards the end, but like, this was not a thing of like, I'm trying to attack the administration or I'm trying to attack a certain political party. There was no message to that. It was simply a message of support for communities that are marginalized, and that simply is seen as a hatred or death to America message, and that's sad because there was only positive vibes from this, and I'm glad that a lot of folks have talked about it and they've said how fun this was. It was a ton of fun here, and I learned something from Sean Morash. I left my Odyssey pass at work. That's awesome. I was like, what is it? Why is Sean Morash texting me right now? I wanted to make sure I read that in case it was something happening. He's not watching, but shout out to Sean. Moraz, his people from the DA aliens. I remember him as. But no, I mean, it's you just look at the situation and it's like, what are we doing? Like, why did this become this thing? And I know why. Like, it's done on purpose. It's done to divide. It's done to create dissension. Like, in order to get clicks and get views and get attention, the most bombastic, most divisive messaging is what gets pushed the most. That's why I really wish Americans and people just in general, in terms of how they view social media, how they intake news, and how they intake commentary, especially on the news, I just wish that they would understand that and they maybe give a pause in terms of instead of being so extreme about their emotions about everything. Like, at the end of the day, this was a musical performance at a football game. We're not talking about electing the next president. We're not talking about going to war. It's something that at the end of the day is actually really not that big a deal. It's all just entertainment. And the fact that it became this big thing that was like this death to America potential by him simply getting on the stage, it's like, can we keep things in perspective a little bit? And the people that you keep watching on television or on the internet, they keep telling you that this is this death to America thing. Why do you think they're telling you that? You think they're telling you that simply because they all think it's death to America? Last time I checked, I woke up, I'm looking out my window. Yeah, America's still here, still going. We're still alive. America's still standing. Everything's all okay. Super Bowl happened. It was fine. There was no death to the country. Why do you think they're saying that? They know it's not death to America. But they're saying that to divide. They're saying that to rally people to whatever political causes that they have. And I hate that it became all of this. But in some ways, I think it was a blessing because then you see the performance that they had and it was so good. And you're just like, why are we arguing? Why are we complaining about this again? What was the fight over this? You kind of forget because you're like, this seems fun. It's different. It's, again, I don't know Spanish. A lot of Americans don't know Spanish. A lot of Americans do, by the way. There's other aspects too where it's like, hey, it's a second language in the country. It's not like it's some, like, oh, if someone's speaking, you know, a language that is not spoken by most people. Like, oh, this is the second most, one of the highest concentrations of Spanish-speaking people in the world live in America, in various different parts of the country. So this was not, like, super foreign, again, to other folks. But nah, this was dope, man. This was dope. He did a great job. And this is going to be remembered for sure because of how different it was and because of also how good it was. That was also the thing. I was like, Bad Bunny's a good performer. Like, it would be different if, not that it would have mattered, but it would have been like, okay, if you get somebody who isn't an international superstar, doesn't deserve that stage, and you say, okay, what are we doing here? Again, I would have said, who cares? But okay, we could argue this. Bad Bunny's he's a megastar, an absolute megastar. And he took the stage, he did his thing. Shout out to him, man. I thought he was awesome, and I really enjoyed the performance. So, wrapping the bow in the Super Bowl, game ends, Seahawks win. We're all now looking towards next year already. And we got the Super Bowl opening odds here. And you got the Rams and the Seahawks seen as the favorites moving forward for next year's Super Bowl. So we already got odds out there, and I'll show you the odds in a second. But Rams, Seahawks open as co-favorites to win next year's Super Bowl 61. So here are the odds. This is from DraftKings here. So you got Seahawks and Rams both at plus 950 this morning. Coming in second, you got the Buffalo Bills at plus 1100. Philadelphia Eagles at plus 1300. They are tied with the Patriots and the Ravens. Ravens still pretty high. Packers are at plus 1400 with the Lions. Look at that. Chiefs pretty far down the list here. I mean, look at that. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They're tied for ninth in Super Bowl odds. It's probably the lowest the Chiefs have opened in a while. If you were a fan of the Denver Broncos and feel like, you know, they were only injury away from being Super Bowl champs this year, well, Vegas, not thinking that highly of they are right now plus 1,800. And you go on, so on and so forth with that. Dallas Cowboys, by the way, if you want to bet money on them to finally get out of this drought that they're in, they're at plus 3,500 there. So Seahawks and Rams Super Bowl favorites. That seems right. I think the Bears are probably too low here. The Bears are nowhere to be found. And, I mean, I thought the Bears really arrived in this, not just regular season, but also in this postseason with Caleb Williams. I would expect he takes another year of growth playing under Ben Johnson. I probably would have had the Bears. I don't know. I think they should be much higher. I mean, they're not. Did I mention the Bears? I mean, I'm trying to think, where are they here? They're all the way down at plus 2,500. I'll be honest, I like those odds. If I had to drop money on somebody today, I'd probably do Bears because just the odds I get. They're in a really tough division, but they basically were a year ahead of schedule in terms of what you probably would have expected from Ben Johnson. And he also was learning how to be an NFL head coach, so there's that aspect of it. That seems like really favorable odds there. I'm a little surprised the Eagles are that high. I think the Eagles are going to have some major changes this offseason. A.J. Brown could be gone. I don't know if they'd be in my top 4. I think the Patriots are too high. That team didn't look like a team that's close. I know they were, in quotation marks, I know they were close to winning a Super Bowl, but were they actually close to winning a Super Bowl? Be real. Like, they were not close in that game. They beat a bunch of teams where they played poorly to win those games. I don't think they're close to winning a Super Bowl. I would not have them as better odds over the Bears. Bears seem like the team that I'm surprised that they're that low. And I'm not someone that, and I wasn't someone that was just like super Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams going to change the NFL guy when they both hooked up together and linked up. But I looked at what I saw from the team this year. I know they won a lot of close games and there was a lot of Caleb magic. And maybe that's what Vegas is counting on. That's from that Caleb magic that went right for them. Just the odds and just how things work means they have to go the opposite way. That could be what they're seeing with that. And I can understand, I guess, why you would see that. in many ways, like the people that were banging against Patriots, the Chiefs this year, in many ways, they also were vindicated with saying, hey, Mahomes' magic can't last forever. And they won so many games last season where it was Mahomes' magic. They're winning these one-score games, or they're winning with game-winning field goals or game-winning touchdowns late. And that's going to even itself out at some point, even with the guys great as Patrick Mahomes. And they were 100% right. It did even out this year. They lost all those close games. And that basically flipped their schedule and flipped their record around. So I guess that's why maybe the Bears are so low, but I would have had them a little higher. I also thought the Packers was kind of high. Micah Parsons tore the ACL late in the season, just like Mahomes. So if you're worried about the Chiefs in terms of how low they are, that's probably some concerns about Patrick Mahomes and his knee. Micah Parsons is a pass rusher. Like, you know, in theory, Mahomes is okay, maybe he doesn't have some of his mobility. He can still be effective. Micah Parsons needs all of his mobility to be effective. He can't be compromised. So if you're talking about a guy who had a late knee injury in December, when is he coming back realistically? I don't know why the Packers are that high. These odds are weird. Packers are really high. I think the Ravens are kind of high. They need to overhaul their entire defense, I think. These are some weird odds. I'll be honest. I don't love. I mean, again, there's some money I would lay down on some people that I feel good about. I feel good about laying money down on the Bears. I might even feel good about laying money down on the Texans if they make a big move, like a dramatic move for a quarterback that maybe we don't foresee, because their defense is so great. But yeah, I don't really love those odds for the Packers. I mean, in terms of being one of the top 7 or 8 teams. I think the Lions are right where they should be. I think the Lions, people are going to forget about them, but they shouldn't. They'll get the coaching situation right with the offensive play call, and they'll be back. The Bills are probably where they should be. They're one of the top teams still. But no, I think Seahawks and Rams right now. Seahawks being the defending champs, we saw what they did. I get them being part of the co-favorites there. So I would make that would make sense for me. Let's keep it moving here though. A couple more things before we get out of here, man. I really enjoyed the show so far. Recapping the Super Bowl. A couple other things from the week. Stay in the NFL. This is some sad news here, some disappointing news regarding James Pearce. So James Pearce, he is now facing felony charges following a domestic dispute with his ex-girlfriend, who is WNBA star Rickea Jackson. And the details of this are not pretty, to be honest. There's not really much good news coming out of this. I'm going to give you guys his official charges here. So he's out of jail. He posted $20,000 bond on Sunday. He is facing 5 felony accounts. They include 2 felony accounts of aggravated battery with a deadly weapon, a felony account of aggravated stalking. Other charges include fleeing and eluding police officers and aggravated battery of a police officer, of also felonies. He also has a misdemeanor count of resisting an officer without violence to his person. So these are rough situations and rough charges in terms of what Pearce is being accused of. He was released from Turner Guyfield Night Correction Center on Sunday afternoon, and his case was assigned to the felony domestic crimes intake unit. He was also given a pretrial condition stay-away order with regard to Rickea Jackson. So this was dark in terms of, it was tough that you got to see a lot of the images of this because people got to videotape him evading cops and fighting with cops, and there's like 5 or 6 people trying to get him subdued so they can put him under arrest. And it was a dark scene. It was a dark scene. James Pearce had 10.5 sacks last year when he was drafted, which was, remember, kind of late in the first round or later in the first round than people expected. A lot of people were like, this guy in college, they thought he might be the #1 pick. And he had a pretty good last year at Tennessee, maybe a little disappointing, but he was good. Why was he drafted so low? Well, he was drafted low because of this. You were able to get him late in the first round. Well, let me step back. I want to be responsible. He's accused of this. We'll see what happens. But there were character concerns about James Pearce and stuff that was happening around Tennessee, stuff that people knew. We don't know what that stuff is unless you have people in the know, but that was the word, that he fell in the draft because of character concerns. That wasn't his football. And he plays, you're like, oh man, this guy is a monster. He was a beast for the Falcons this year. In many ways, like, I think the optimism that like Kevin Stefanski has by taking that job is because of how great their defense looked with James Pearce really being a difference maker. The Falcons had such struggle trying to find a pass rusher, consistency. they haven't had like a guy who's a consistent 10-sack guy since they had John Abraham. We're talking about 10, 15 years ago. So it looked like they finally found that guy with James Pearce, but now you're seeing they might have got him in part because of character concerns, and now here you are here with a guy who should have been drafted much higher, and you got him, and he was a great player, but now he's dealing with realistic concerns about what his future is. Now, the reports stemming from this situation apparently involved, in terms of the deadly weapon, which I saw in the chat and I've seen as well, that he was stalking Rickea Jackson. He was at one point during a car chase trying to get into her car. Then there was a moment, allegedly, of course, it's all allegations, where he tried to ram his car into her car so that she could not go to police. Again, very dark stuff with this, and it's all obviously got to be investigated, and I hope we get all the facts when they come out. But of course, it's always sad to hear potential domestic violence incidents and domestic cases here, and we hope that obviously for Rickea Jackson and any woman dealing with any kind of domestic violence, or men, whatever situation may be, that of course they get the support that's needed, because these could turn to very dangerous, deadly situations if not addressed and not taken care of. So I hope for James Pearce, in terms of where he's at, I hope some of this stuff isn't as bad as it sounds or bad as it looks. Again, we don't see the video of him ramming his car, but we do see the video of him fighting police officers. Like, again, there's a lot of stuff out there. So I hope that the stuff maybe isn't as bad as it sounds. But if it is as bad as it sounds, I hope that he also, understands that he's going to have to deal with the consequences of his actions, which very well could mean some kind of jail time, could mean suspension from the NFL. I'd be shocked if he's not suspended by the NFL, just with this. Like, I know you got to actually go through the court system, and what's weird about the NFL is it seems like they apply different rules to different people. It seems like there are some guys who are able to have cases pending and just play until they figure it out. Like Rashee Rice was able to just play for 2 years without us figuring out, hey, are you gonna do something about the fact that he had like this issue? Similarly, where like it's different in terms of what's domestic, but like there was video of him like on a highway with the damaged car. Like this, okay, we'll figure out whatever he gets convicted of or whatever. But like there's clearly something went very wrong here, and he probably should have some kind of punishment or be on some exempt list maybe until they finally come up with something. And they just let him play. They just let him play until they finally had the conviction and say, okay, now here's your 6-game suspension, whatever they gave him this year. But he played last year, and then he played. He got hurt, and then he was gonna play this year until they finally suspended him. But then again, some guys is different. Then there's some guys where they get a case like this and they're just immediately suspended or put on some kind of exempt list. So I don't. To be honest, the NFL isn't all that clear on some of these rules. So I don't know if this means Pearce definitely misses games next year, because if this is a case that's going to take time, which these cases typically do, maybe he can delay it to the point where he can still play while this is going on. The NFL waits to see what happens. I know the NFL has had issues, obviously, with dealing with domestic violence in the past. We know with Greg Hardy, we know with Ray Rice, what happened with those incidences. So maybe they'll be more sensitive to this, being like, hey, we can't have bro out there on the field with these allegations. We just can't do it. He's got to sit down. Even if he's getting paid and he's on the exempt list, he can't play. Maybe that's what they end up doing, but we'll have to end up seeing what happens. And again, more details will come out about exactly what's going on. But I hope for James Pearce, if these allegations are true, that I hope he gets his life in order and understands that whether he's a football player or not, that he's got a lot of life ahead of him. And this is not the kind of way you want to keep moving forward your life if you want to live as comfortably and as free as you would want. This is how you get behind a jail cell really fast, acting in these ways. If this all happened. If it's not, then I hope he has the best legal team that can present the evidence that suggests that this is not what people think and not what we are looking at, and we have the whole picture wrong. If that's the case, I hope he's able to defend himself in that way. But these allegations don't look good. They just don't. And again, for Rickea Jackson, if this is something that is true with what happened, we hope the best for her. She's a star. And I know, it doesn't matter, again, who the woman is when it comes to domestic violence. All domestic violence is rough. But in just terms of someone who actually watches the NBA, WNBA, remembers when she was drafted out of Tennessee and has seen her get to LA and become an impact player immediately. She looks like she's a future 20-point scorer, consistently all-star kind of player. The kind of player that maybe could be an MVP kind of person. Like, that's the kind of star that she could be. So she's young. This is, she just got to the WNBA, but she's dope, man. She's a prototypical wing scorer, a bucket getter, man. And it was tough because like so many people were like really supportive and like really excited. Oh wow, look at this! Like these two college kids who are both like these phenomenal athletes that are together, and it was such a cool story. It's one of the best stories out of last year's draft was going to James Pearce's, his party where he's celebrating, and like Rickea Jackson next to him, and all these WNBA fans and women's college basketball fans like, oh, whoa, I didn't know that. Some people did. I know I didn't know that, even though I knew who Rickea Jackson was. It's like, that's really cool. That's really awesome. Like, we love that. We love here. So it's unfortunate that like now it gets tainted with this, and again, I hope that for her safety and everything that's been going on and the traumatic experience it's had to be, I hope that she's able to move on in a way that that allows her to continue to live her life and be the star that she is. And last thing before we get out of here, man, it's been a super long show. Not super long, but kind of long. I know I started a little late, but we're approaching the 2-hour mark here. It's EJ Stewart, 40 Days, 40 Nights here, live on YouTube, live on X, live on Instagram. We got to talk about Lindsey Vonn. This was heartbreaking, too, as I realize this lower third is way too big. Let me fix that. There you go. This was heartbreaking as well. I want to talk about a heartbreaking story. So Lindsey Vonn, she had been trying to make this comeback after basically leaving the sport of skiing because of just simply her being at the age that she was. And most of the time you kind of bow out with the kind of success Lindsey Vonn has had. She was going to try to go on and do other things, but she decided to actually say, you know what, I'm going to get back on the slopes, and I'm going to try to win another gold medal. And now she is severely injured. She has a leg fracture. She just underwent surgery, and this happened on her first run in Olympic competition. I guess it was yesterday. Yeah, I know the days are weird because of the time difference, but Sunday, I guess Sunday morning would have been Sunday afternoon in Italy. She was trying to do this all with a torn ACL. She had tore her ACL in a practice run a week prior, which most people would say, okay, you have torn ACL, you decide I'm not going to perform, I'm done, like, you're going to get cleared. She was able to perform still. She said, I'm going to do it, like, I got a brace on it. And they showed her during these practice runs, and she looked fine. They showed her doing, like, leg presses and all this crazy stuff that I never had an ACL injury. I did obviously have a torn patellar tendon, which is different, but it's a serious knee injury. Having had a serious knee injury, I can't imagine trying to do what the stuff she was trying to do. I don't know how it was even possible, but she was going to give it a go, and she tried, and from the analysis I saw, it seemed like she was just going way too fast and going after, this turn she had, and she clips the marker. I'm not a ski person, to be clear, so it's not going to be the best analysis. I'm trying to repeat the analysis I've heard in terms of what happened. But it seemed like she was coming in real super fast on a turn, and she was going for it because that's what Lindsey Vonn is. She's an absolute go-getter when it comes to going all for nothing. And her arm clips one of the flags. She goes up in the air. She's sideways. There's no chance this landing is going to end well. And then the landing's awful. And then you hear the silence from the crowd. You hear some screams from some people. Some people were saying it was Lindsey Vonn screams. I kept hearing it. I don't think that was Lindsey Vonn. I think that was someone in the crowd. If it was, and again, that made this even more heartbreaking. But nonetheless, you hear the screams from somebody that's on the slopes or somewhere in the area. And you see her just unable to move, writhing in pain. And it's a heartbreaking, terrible thing to see. Obviously, wish Lindsey Vonn nothing but the best. She is a legend. I mean, no other way to describe it. I mean, when it comes to Winter Olympics, she is one of the GOATs. She won, obviously, gold in Vancouver in 2010. And when it comes to, again, this sport, all the World Cups that she's won, we know what kind of star she's been. And for a lot of folks, it was very inspirational for her to get out there at her older age at this point. She's 41. And say, I'm gonna come out of retirement and I'm going to try to do this thing. And it looked like she was doing really well, it seemed like, in the lead up and qualifying and practicing. I think she would have been a threat probably to win the gold. And, of course, she didn't get to do it. I know people, and listen, I talked to my fiance about this. She's been very strong about feeling like people let Lindsey Vonn down when it came to allowing her to get on the slopes. She's probably right. Like, I mean, she probably should not have been out there. Did she get hurt because she was playing on a torn Achilles, a torn ACL? I'm not someone who is an expert enough to tell you that that's what happened. I don't think that it takes a rocket science, though, to realize that if you're playing on a torn ACL, you're obviously very compromised, and what that could lead to could be to other injuries because you're not 100%. And does a Lindsey Vonn that is 100% hit that turn the way she normally hits it and flies off and comes off totally clean? It's an answer we'll never know, but again, it's not, it doesn't take a rocket science or you're not like a Debbie Downer to say maybe she doesn't get hurt if she's not trying to do this thing on a torn ACL. But I'm also, and this comes from my background as like a boxing fan, and there's like the adage of I want to go out on my own shield. I also kind of can just respect an athlete saying, I know the risk, I know I'm going to get into, and I want to go out there on my shield. Let me go out there and perform. I can respect that. Boxers do it all the time when, like, a fight was bad and like, oh, I got thrown in the towel, and it's, and the boxer say, no, like, don't stop this fight. Let me go out on my shield. Like, if I get knocked out or I get beat, then I get beat. But I don't want this match to be stopped because my corner quits or my corner says no more. The doctor says no more. And sometimes, for their, now to be clear, sometimes for their health and for, their well-being, a doctor or the trainer will say, no, you're too damaged, you're too hurt, we're not going to do this. But there is that motto in boxing, in UFC and MMA that, go out there, go out on your shield. If you lose, you lose, but you know the risk of getting going in. Lindsey Vonn knew the risk, so I feel comfortable with that. There was a little bit of, in terms of like, she's kind of become like a Kevin Durant style kind of troll on social media. So people were trying to like troll her about like her trying to do this at 41. She was giving it right back to people on social media all week. And leading up to this, obviously, just simply asking the right questions about, hey, is this a good idea? She was very defiant about like, I know my body, I know what I have to do, like I know I can do this. I'm gonna wear this knee brace, and it's gonna be fine. And it wasn't fine, right? So there's that aspect where it's like, maybe she was definitely very much defiant. But to even try this, you have no choice but to be defiant and not believe the worst can happen, because everyone else will tell you the worst can happen. So I wish her all the best, man. It's sad. It's tough. It kind of put like a damper, obviously, on that event for the down sled skiing competition, the race that they were doing. But she's still a legend. We're always gonna remember this. It just the only thing I hate a lot of things about this, but the main thing I really hate about this, and it's the one thing that makes me think, man, like I almost kind of wish somebody would have said, hey, this probably isn't the best thing. And I just hate that this is how her career ends, because her career is definitely over, obviously, after this. And that sucks, man. Like I tell you guys all the time, one of the things I hate the most is seeing all-time great athletes end their careers like injured or just like a shell of themselves. Like, that's the last. I don't want that memory in my head. Now, I'm a fan. I don't have any ownership of their careers, so they can do whatever they want. So it's not for me to say, oh, like Lindsey Vonn, you did the wrong thing coming out of retirement, or I think that this probably wasn't the best idea, but she was fine with whatever was going to happen to her. So I have to be cool with that. But it's hard for me to look at that and say, oh, this was the right thing, and this is what I wanted to see, how her career ended. Like, that's not what I want to see, man. At all. Like, that is not something at all I wanted to see. And the fact that that's the lasting image of her career, it sucks, man. I don't want to sit here and do the finger wagging of this. And, oh, this is why you shouldn't. That doesn't do any good. It's just sad to me, man. It's just sad to me. Because, again, she's an icon, she's a legend. When you think of Winter Olympics, she's one of the athletes you'll always think about. And it's now tough that, a great career is not going to be synonymous with this. I want to read some comments before we get out of here, man. Shout out to the comment section. This is going to be the most comments that we've ever had on the show. I see 102 comments here. And what I've also seen is that sometimes I don't get all of the tweets and all of the stuff. So I don't get everything, but I get most of the stuff that comes up here. Maybe some things are getting blocked because of, like, their spam or whatever. But nonetheless, 103 comments is amazing. And if you're in the comment section or you're watching this show, shout out. We're going to play some comments before we get out of here. Also, be sure to give us a like, give us a thumbs up on this video. If you haven't already, make sure you like this, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on X, whether you're on Instagram, Actually DJ, watching this live on IG Live. Make sure you give us a thumbs up and a like. The comments are awesome. Again, it helps with engagement. It helps with getting other folks to see this thing we're doing, this project that we're on. It's been super fun. So if you could support us by giving us a like in this video, jump in the comment section along with the folks that have been carrying the rest of the show. We greatly do appreciate that. I want to get to some more comments here. We talked about a lot of different things. I want to scroll back up here so I can get your comments on a lot of different things in terms of the situation with Bad Bunny. I mentioned Manny. Manny was the person that introduced me. I don't want to introduce me to Bad Bunny, but I listened to more of Bad Bunny because of Manny, my former associate producer on the Maggie and Perloff show. So shout out to Manny Poppin' Bands. Yes, that's right. That's what Big Friendly gave him that nickname. And yeah, it was he was the reason why I knew some of those Bad Bunny songs that were being played, because I remembered them. I've heard them before. I was like, oh yeah, I remember this. And I always make my fiance always laughs, because I always do my impression of, like, you know, what I hear when I hear Bad Bunny music when I was working. I'd be like, it's like the boot, the boot, the boot, the boot, the oop, the oop. And she's like, what are you doing? I look like such a gringo. But yeah, shout out to Manny. But some other folks here in the chat, I want to make sure I can read some of these comments here. Here's one here. Things that I learned from last night's halftime. Puerto Rican power outages, 10 diesel generators power half of Puerto Rico's power capacity. The Puerto Rican flag was banned when brought back. Yeah, there were a lot of different, and apparently it was banned with the U.S. flag blue. So a lot of people, there were some different things about, like, how, like, they incorporated in the performance, like the fact that Puerto Rico, it took them 11 years to get, like, the power completely restored in Puerto Rico, which is insane since Hurricane Maria. So also a comment from a Trans Sports Radio listener. Rock Nation has really elevated the Super Bowl to be consistently meaningful and entertaining every year. Totally agree. That's why when I was trying to read the list of, like, what are the better ones and what are the worst ones, I paused every time I tried to make a take, which is not what you want to do. But I was like, I like all of these. There aren't really bad ones. Again, I think if I had to say what the ones on the lower tier, I would probably say last year's Kendrick and Shakira and J-Lo. But those were good performances. They just were they're up against some of the better other performers of our lifetime. Kendrick Lamar is up against himself because, right, he was in the LA one, so it becomes a thing. But yeah, no, Rock Nation, that they've obviously upped the game when it comes to the Super Bowl halftime performances, which became stale and just became, for me, it just didn't become about what music is today and what's hot today. Like the Super Bowl, in many ways, to me, it should be about the moment in time of where we are, what we are as a country and as a culture, and what's hot. Like, that to me, it should be the big. There was a time where, like, you performed, you were in, like, the prime of your career. Like Michael Jackson, like, when he did that performance, he was in the prime of his career, right? Like, you should be getting those kind of folks. We shouldn't be getting folks that were legacy acts from the 80s and the 70s, right? Even though, like Dr. Dre too, okay, they were old too. At least it's the 90s. It's not 50 years ago or 40 years ago. Some of these older bands they were doing. And again, it's just where music is and the most popular music in the world, it's just a lot different than what it was 50 years ago. There was a time where, yeah, the biggest rock band was probably the most popular music act. That's just not the case anymore. It's just, it could be a hip-hop act, it could be Bad Bunny, it could be a pop act, it could be a rock act, it could be anybody. We just needed different. It couldn't be the same, and we needed again some younger audiences as well, because you want to make those touchstone moments. You want to make those cultural moments. Like everything about any entertainment you're getting is about clipping stuff for social media and making these visuals viral that can be spread around for millions and millions of people. You just can't keep doing that, but putting the Rolling Stones on there. You just can't keep doing that, putting the Who on here. Like, you're not gonna be able, because those are acts we've seen do these kind of performances for 40 years, 30 years, right? Like, we've seen them in those kind of things. We know all those songs. We know all those moments. And the sensibilities of where people are right now. And just, I know there are folks who hold on to that era of music and that era of Super Bowl performances. And I understand it. Like, I'm someone who, I actually don't really listen to a lot of, like, current music. It might surprise you, but, like, I have my artists that I like. I've talked about J. Cole probably too much on this show, so you know I like J. Cole. I love Kendrick. I love a lot of people that you never heard of that I love. I love XV. I'm gonna talk about this poster in a second. Someone asked me what this poster is about, and it's an XV thing. And he's still making music. I love Logic. I love this guy Malls Monday, who you never heard of probably, but he's a brilliant rapper. Like there are a lot of people I love, but I don't listen to everybody. I love Jid. I love Joey Badass. Chance the Rapper. Like there are plenty of acts that I do love, but it's not everybody. It's not for everybody. But music's very personal to me. I still end up listening to a lot of old stuff from people I listened to from the past. But I understand that like this is a different time now, and I can't expect it to be just people I like from 30 years ago. Like I love that BS Stupid Dr. Dre, but they've been the oldest act by far of all the people that have been part of this so far. So yeah, you got to have The Weeknd. He's a big star right now. I like The Weeknd's music. Do I listen to him regularly? Is he in any of my? He's not on my phone. Like he's probably on some playlist I share with Andrea. But is he someone I'm going to listen to regularly? No. But he makes good music, and it's about the entertainment value of it. So I think the Rock Nation aspect of it, they've certainly understood the assignment of like what the Super Bowl halftime needs to be, and they're getting the NFL is getting exactly what they want. I think in terms of, there's always going to be a little bit of a double-edged sword for me because I'm also someone who feels like Jay-Z putting his arms around the NFL at a time when there were really serious conversations about what the NFL was doing in terms of social justice and its blackballing of Colin Kaepernick. I think Jay-Z, in many ways, was able to act as a shield for them. So there are still some folks like myself who will look at that and look at what happened and him joining the NFL in this regard and still feel a way about it because, unfortunately, that allowed people to kind of stop thinking about Kaepernick and start thinking about, oh, cool, we got Kendrick Lamar and Rihanna at a halftime show, and it changed the narrative, which is what the NFL wanted. So I'm never going to feel great about that. I still feel a way about that with Jay-Z, but there's no question that Rock Nation and Jay-Z have done a phenomenal job with booking these acts for these Super Bowl. They've all been really good. And she, Trans Sports Radio also says, saying Shakira, J-Lo on the bottom of this Rock Nation speak on the excellence of this run. Totally agree. Again, I don't, and some people will think I'm insane, right? I mean, Shakira and J-Lo are phenomenal performers. They're beautiful women. So some people will say that's insane. That was one of the best. I thought it was towards the bottom end of this, but not that it was bad. Again, just that I thought, from my opinion, I thought there were kind of weird things. Wasn't that the one where Shakira did the woo, like, which was kind of, again, create viral moments, create memes, good. But is that a good performance? Like, I don't know if that's good performing. It's memorable. Again, but there was some great singing. There was great dancing. There was the colors, and it was a lot of great things about it. In just terms of my favorites, I put that near the bottom for sure. Other ones we have here. Let's see what up. We need our man Manny to help us with Bad Bunny. Yeah, I know. I usually, again, because of the nature of this show, things I probably shouldn't do, I do in the show all the time because I'm like, this is my show and this is very different than most shows you'll hear. I'll tell you about plans I had or things I wanted to do. I actually considered trying to see if I can get Manny on the show today. We obviously had the major technical difficulties when we had him last time. So that was kind of why I didn't want to bring him. I would have loved to have had him because he loves Bad Bunny and he watched Super Bowl. It would have been fun to talk about the game. But I was like, I don't know if I want to risk it with the technical aspects. I think we fixed some of those issues in terms of why it was happening. But I didn't want to take the risk on a Super Bowl Sunday, right? Where, you want to make sure we get to as many stuff as possible. So I got that. But shout out to my guy, Manny, again. He is indeed the man. Yep, Jessica Alba was there as well. Yep, Matt, I realized that. I realized it too late, unfortunately. But when I realized that, I was like, ooh, yeah. That's pretty nice. Pretty nice she was there. Puppy Bowl had more views than the Kid Rock show. I don't know. I don't know about that. Apparently they peaked at about 6 million. 7 million. And then the Super Bowl, obviously, that was like 317 million. It's hard. YouTube audiences is weird. You don't know what's bots. You don't know whatever. But even if you take 7 million number of value, that's not nothing. That's a considerable amount of people. But to me, first of all, obviously, it's not this swath of people that were migrating over to YouTube to watch this thing. So there's that aspect of it. But also, even beyond that, I think it is, even that if it is 7 million people or 6 million people that were that in their feelings, the fact that they put a Puerto Rican man out there that sings some songs in Spanish, and that just was so crazy that you had to turn off the TV and put on your laptop or turn on your smart TV and go to the YouTube app to watch Kid Rock. That to me is like, again, I would think about, like, what am I being told? What am I being sold? Like, why am I acting in this way? Kid Rock? I don't want to offend people who love Kid Rock. I actually like some Kid Rock songs. And Kid Rock is but, like, I don't know. I just don't know the swath of Americana culture that feels like seeing Kid Rock on YouTube, something that you had to do on a February Sunday night. That's just not something I would ever want to see. The clips I saw from his performance, he looked like he was doing fine. I saw a clip from one of the other dudes that was on there that, to quote Joe Budden, it was a 2-pack of ass. I don't know who bro was. I think he had a bunch of tattoos, and he was trying to sing or whatever. I was watching. They showed. I saw like a minute of this clip. I'm like, y'all watching this? Y'all hate. Y'all hate what bad, but that Kid Rock. Okay, at least he's dancing, he's jumping, he's bringing energy. At least he seemed like he was trying his best. It seemed like he was doing fine from what I saw. Again, I didn't watch the performance. I watched some of the clips that was coming out from the performance. Seemed like there might be some buffering issues at times where maybe it was a little out of sync, but it's streaming. That happens. I probably had buffering issues. I'm not even going to kill him for that. But it wasn't just Kid Rock, it was a bunch of other people. I thought one bro was up there. I'm like, there's no energy, no life. I'm like, what is going on over there? So I was like, yeah, have it, bro. That's what y'all want to do. I get it, I understand it, but that was bizarre. But I love Super Bowl performance, man. I thought it was really cool. Other things I mentioned, obviously, talking about the Super Bowl odds, Cowboys. I think, what were they? I can pull this back up again. They were like plus 5,000, something crazy. Against Super Bowl odds, and it's like they're only there in part because they're the Cowboys, so they know people will vote will bet on the Cowboys, so therefore they don't want to get destroyed in the money. So they'll say, all right, let's throw the Cowboys up here. But yeah, they were 3,500. They're ahead of the Bucks, who I don't think they're a better team than. There are probably some other teams. Steelers, I don't know if they're better than them either, but they come in at plus 3,500. So you got a trans sports radio listener saying, my 70-year-old coworker may never see Cowboys Super Bowl thanks to Jerry Jones. Yeah, that's a reality. I wish I could give you anything more positive to say, but that is a reality, that the Cowboys and the Super Bowl still feels pretty far away. They have a good passing game. They have a pretty good offense overall. So you got that going for you. If you can fix the defense, maybe they could be a good team next year. It's just the NFC. If they were in the AFC, I'd say, okay, maybe not dead completely. Like, there are teams I think that are still better than them. But, okay, they got a good offense. They fixed the defense up. In that conference, they might be able to do some things. In the NFC, I don't think these Seahawks are going anywhere. I don't think these Rams are going anywhere. I don't think that the Bears are going anywhere. I don't think that the Lions are going anywhere. I don't think the Packers are going anywhere. And the 49ers also probably will be respectable still. Like, there's just a lot of good teams. So the crack through is going to be really hard there. Also, we talked about Super Bowl odds. Matthew Graves saying Chiefs being lower than the Ravens is a bit odd. I would lay some money on them. I agree with that. I thought the Ravens were way too high. I didn't understand the Ravens thing. Brand new coach, which could be an upgrade, could be a plus, but also could be something that hurts them here. You know, John Harbaugh, for all his flaws, and he had some flaws, particularly in who he hired as the defensive coordinator, Zach Orr. He was a highly successful coach that won a lot of games. And you never fully know if the grass is going to be greener on the other side. So I don't want to just sit here and tell you, Jesse Minter is going to be definitely better than John Harbaugh. We don't know. He should be able to fix the defense. I think that is a lot of why you see the ranking so high for the Ravens. As I think they're saying that the Ravens would have been one of the top teams had they had a good defense. So if Minter just brings in a good defense and Lamar remains Lamar, then they'll be fine. I think they're going to have some personnel changes in order to become a good defense. So it's going to take some work from Eric DeCosta. And also, like, the version of Lamar we saw this year was not that great. So I agree. I think that the odds for the Ravens were a little high. Chiefs odds being lower, I think a lot of that had to do with Mahomes' injury, which is why I think go back to why were the Packers so high then. The Packers are playing in a much tougher conference, and the real game changer in their defense is completely hurt. He tore his ACL. We don't know when Mike Parsons is going to be back. So I don't quite get why why they're so high either. A lot of folks saying they love this show today. Bob saying, great program this morning. Appreciate you, Bob. Transports Radio listener saying, I agree, Bob. Another great show. Yeah, a lot of folks have really seemed to have enjoyed this episode. I also got one from Matthew Graves. EJ, the Bionic EP, great show, man. I missed the I think I missed the AMA. You did, but I gotta know. Where do you get the poster on your left shoulder? I spied Goku and Joker. Curious, LOL. So yes, I'm going to do I'm gonna still do my AMA. I think I'm gonna do it tonight, because I realize, so again, I make this show very open, and I think that's important. And I'll be honest, to do this, it's a lot of, it can be a lot of anxiety, and there's a lot of like, oh, you don't want to put something out there, oh, they're gonna like it, or they're gonna respond, or whatever. So sometimes like I wrestle with that, just like all of us do who do this kind of thing. But I definitely wrestle with my personal stuff. The part of me is like, oh, like if I put an AMA, like will people really respond? Will they care? Like, am I big enough for people to even want to ask me questions? So it leads to a lot of anxiety. So I put it out there only like an hour before our show, realizing that's probably not enough time for people to read this. So I have some questions already. I'm going to post again, probably after this show. And maybe I'll do it towards the end of today's show. I said, oh, man, I can do it on Friday. But to be honest, Fridays are Kendall Fridays. I don't know if it makes sense to do it then, because that's a lot of content, whereas me talking to Kendall, and then me, obviously, just didn't answer questions. Monday actually might be great, because you have a whole weekend. You can ask questions and think about whatever. So I think I'm going to try Monday nights as my AMAs that I want to do for the rest of this time. So this is, I guess, a question here, and I'll post it on my Instagram. I posted it on Twitter again. But this question, obviously, about my poster. So this is, as you see here, he said he spotted Goku. I'm going to give you some other Where Waldo guys here. So you got Marilyn Monroe, Darth Vader. That's Walter White. Goku, Snooki. We got Michael Jordan. I forgot what this guy is from, but he's from like a movie, I think. I don't remember what movie or show. You got Willy Wonka, Joker. We got Back to the Future here. We got C-3PO. We got Dwight Schrute. We got the two guys from Pulp Fiction. We got Beavis and Butthead. I don't actually have no idea who this guy is. I don't remember. I don't remember who this is either. I used to know all these people. I don't remember who this one is. This is Kim and Kanye. Maybe it didn't age that well, but this is Kim Kanye. And that's the guy from Our Real Monsters. So this is the cover of a mixtape that I love from a rapper named XV, who I mentioned earlier. XV is that when I started this and I told the story, he is the inspiration, one of the inspirations for this program. He's definitely inspiration for the formatting of this series. So XV, he did a series that was called 40 Days and 40 Nights, where for 40 days and 40 nights, he dropped a new song every day, twice a day. He dropped one in the morning, he dropped one in the evening. And it was during the what we call in hip hop the blog era, where a lot of up and coming rappers, some who were unsigned, some who were signed, were taking ownership over the fact that music was kind of the wild, wild west when it came to like clearing samples and clearing things. And if you weren't selling an album, people seemed to think it was okay that you could post a free mixtape and still use people's music. So, which wasn't legal, obviously, we now know, which is why you don't see many of these songs on Spotify anymore, or at all. But because of that, again, all these artists were doing all these different campaigns to get attention. They were posting on their own blogs. There were people who launched hip-hop blogs where they would post other people's music, and it became very popular, hence why it's called the blog era. XV was one of the true MVPs of the blog era. He was one of the greatest rappers of that era of time. This is about between 2007 to about 2015, let's say, where like mixtape era music is very poppin'. So this is the cover of one of these mixtapes. It's not the 40 Days and 40 Nights cover, but it's popular culture. You could, again, I don't know where you would find it in terms of like download. It's definitely on YouTube, and you probably could find it somewhere. It's one of my favorite mixtapes of all time. It's one of my favorite musical projects of all time. It's essentially, it's called Popular Culture, and XV, he it's like maybe a 15, 16 song mixtape, And the theme of the entire mixtape, it's essentially a concept mixtape where he's bringing different elements of pop culture he grew up with and making songs either influenced by them or about them. So there's a song called I Real Monsters. There's a song called Wonkavator, which is a shout out to Willy Wonka. There's a song, let me try to see if there are any other references from this one. I don't know if there are any, there's a song called, what's it called? Jedi Knight. Well, it's a beautiful love song, but it's obviously, it's inspired, by, of course, by Star Wars and all these Star Wars references. It's awesome. In fact, I feel like I want to listen to it today now that I've been talking about this. So this is the album cover. It's a little cut off because I wanted to have a horizontal. It's not like a square, but it's them in the Simpsons room, that the famous Simpsons couch, where like Bart and everybody all get together for the turn on TV. So he had an artist put them in the Simpsons house, and it's him in the middle. That's XV with the bag over his head. That was part of like his one of his like guess signatures, and the green backpack, also a big signature. And it's him with all of these popular culture figures that were important to his life, and why they're a part of this. And there are different drops throughout the thing with like the Office music plays at one point, and there's clips from different movies. It's beautiful. It's an amazing project, and it really made me become an XV fan. I got introduced to XV through NBA 2K. There's a song, Awesome, that you may have heard because it was in a Verizon commercial. When he was signed, they were trying to maybe push him as a new act. He didn't get as famous as maybe people hoped he would have, and to be honest, his talent deserved. But there was a song called Awesome that was on a Verizon commercial, and it was obviously one of the main songs for NBA 2K11, I want to say. So that introduced me to XV. It made me go back to his catalog, and the first thing I listened to was this album, because I was like, that cover is crazy. Like, these are all the things I love. Like, what is this? Like, I already loved the song that I heard, which had a lot of popular culture references, but I was curious what this guy was about, and I ended up checking him out, and he's a phenomenal rapper. He still makes music now. He took a long hiatus, but he's come back to music. He actually dropped the Kid with the Green Backpack, which was an album that he was making when he was signed with Warner Brothers Music years and years ago. It never came out. So he gave it out to the fans so now people can know what that was supposed to hear like. But he has all these mixtapes that are great. And this is one of them. This is one of my favorites of all time. So that's why I have that there. I figured doing 40 Days, 40 Nights, when I was figuring out what my setup was going to be, I was like, what do I want to put behind me? And I was like, I got Allen Houston. That's the game winner against the Heat. Game 5. First round. Knocking out the number 1 seed. Had to have Allen Houston up there. And I was like, what else do I want to put up there? And I had different posters here. There's actually some posters here sitting next to me that I almost put up. But then I was like, you know what? Let me grab that popular culture one. And I looked at it. I was like, I think it's perfect. So that's the story behind that, Matthew. For those that were wondering, yeah, check out his stuff. He's good, man. He's good. And also Matt Graves saying, XV, got it. I'll be checking it out as soon as we get the stream. Yeah, go to Popular Culture. Popular Culture is the name of the mixtape. Check it out. I think it's hip hop. If you don't love hip hop, maybe you won't love it. But I think if you like a lot of these things, you peep these people, you're like, ooh, what's going on there? I think you'll enjoy it. I think even if it's like you listen to it once, you're like, oh, this is really neat that he did this. It's a really cool project. It's one of the coolest things he did. And he did it because he said so much of his music was based on like popular culture influences that he wanted this to be like his one where I'm gonna do everything, a concept around it, everything around it. People love that, talk about Marvel and talk about Star Wars and stuff, but I don't want that to define me as an artist. So I'm gonna put everything in one project and just be as creative as possible. And it was an awesome experience, man. I'm a little long here. It's almost 10:38 Eastern time. It's 2 hours and 23 minutes here, but I think this show definitely deserved it. We're talking Super Bowl stuff, man, and some other stuff that happened over the weekend. But that's going to do it, man, for this edition of 40 Days, 40 Nights. If you are watching, again, if you give us a like, give us a thumbs up, that really helps us. If you're in the comment section, give us a comment. That helps us a ton as well. Again, make sure you subscribe to the channel. New Generation Media is where you will subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you also follow me on X, EJ_Stewart, where I'm also streaming live, and stream live on Action EJ as well. Again, shout out to the YouTube viewers and everybody that was in the chat, man. You guys were rocking it. 125 comments is insane. Way more. And in a good way, obviously. Way more than I've had at any show so far. So I greatly appreciate you guys for rocking with me this morning. And again, all shows get posted on our podcast channel. So go to wherever you podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, TuneIn, search New Generation Podcast Network, and you can get all of these episodes of 40 Days and 40 Nights. And that's going to do it for this edition of 40 Days, 40 Nights. I want to thank you guys again for checking me out. This was a ton of fun. I'll be back again at 6 p.m. We'll have some fun announcements. I think we're going to announce some of the guests we'll have this week because I'm really excited about some of the guests we'll have this week. And if you're a fan of the Maggie and Perloff show, you'll be really excited about who I have coming on Tuesday. That's tomorrow morning. So we'll announce that a little bit later. I'm EJ Stewart. Thank you guys for checking me out. Take it easy.